Welcome to episode 19 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure podcast. As always, I'm joined by my good mate Craig. And this episode we have a very special guest. His name is Tom Langhorne, and he's all the way from Scotland, and he runs around the Scottish Highlands in nothing more than a kilt and a few other bits and pieces, of course. Craig, would you still hike with me if I just wandered around in a kilt?
Not sure. Yeah, of course I would, mate.
You just scraped in with the right answer there, mate. Thank you very much. Please play the music. All right, welcome back to another episode, guys. I'm going to jump straight into thanking our podcast sponsors, Topo Maps Plus. Go deeper into the backcountry with this topographical map app that allows you to track your location even without cell phone coverage. Rios floating polarized sunglasses with 100% UV protection for the love of water. Bluey Merino, where our story ends, yours is just beginning. Australian superfine merino wool bottom, mid and top layer garments. Caribou, one of Australia's most well-known and leading backpack, travel and outdoor brands and suppliers of our personal dry bags, waterproof day packs and expedition bags. This episode is also sponsored by tripoutside.com. Gear up for your adventure. Craig, let me give you a scenario, mate. Mm-hmm. You're living or traveling in North America. You're trying to organise a couple of adventures across the country. You want to do some mountain biking here and some kayaking there. The problem is you'd literally be calling individual shops and outfitters and checking availability and everything else that goes with that. Then when you finally get there to these shops, you're probably going to end up filling out a whole bunch of forms and standing around while you're waiting for your gear.
Yeah.
Does any of that sound like fun so far?
No, mate, not at all.
Yeah, it's going to get pretty frustrating pretty quick, but that's the way it's always kind of been. This is where tripoutside.com kind of comes into its own. It allows you to plan and book all of your outdoor adventures all on the one website. So discover top outdoor destinations, compare prices at local shops, and then book the gear and adventures you need online quickly and easily. They've got over 60 top outdoor adventure destinations across North America, and they're adding more every day. The site features shops that rent bikes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, canoes, skis, snowboards, rafts, surfboards, camping gear, and more. That all sounds pretty cool so far, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Let me give you a couple of examples of some of the adventures and gear you could literally jump on tripoutside.com and book right now. Mountain biking, the Moab Red Rock. I don't even know where that is, but it sounds pretty wicked. Backcountry canoeing in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. Again, sign me up. And surfing Oahu's famous waves. So I just want to say thanks to Trip Outside for being a sponsor of this particular episode. Visit tripoutside.com for a list of everything they have to offer. And get some inspiration for your next adventure by following them on Instagram, which is @trip.outside. All right. Craig, how you doing, mate? Should we get into this?
Yeah, let's get into it, man. I'm doing fine, thanks.
What's new, mate?
Pretty busy, actually. Yeah.
Busy?
Busy.
Have you got out anywhere?
Yeah.
It's been a while, and I'm not going to try and shy away from that, but it has been a while.
Yes.
Craig and I have had significant things in our personal lives to negotiate of late, and that's kind of just been a real coincidence that it's impacted on us and our ability to get this next episode out. So we actually interviewed Tom a couple of weeks ago now, maybe I couldn't put a number on it, 2-3 weeks ago now, and we've just been waiting for this opportunity to get together and record this intro for you guys. So sorry, mate, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, it's going to be good to get
nuts.
This one out. I think everyone will love the interview.
Yeah,
it was
it's
awesome.
An absolute cracker.
Mate, I nailed a family camping holiday to Stradbroke Island, which is an awesome place to go with the kids. So
yeah, anyone who can say they nailed a family camping holiday is doing something right.
That's such a good feeling, actually. With a bit of trepidation leading into it, we decided to go with the neighbours down the road here. They've got kids that play with our kids, and we tagged along. And the kids were just worn out by the end of the day. They had so much fun.
Best kind of kids.
Yeah, best kind of kids are sleeping kids. So we managed that, and we really did a good job with the tenting situation. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that went.
Was that four-wheel drive access, or did you just stay in a regular campground or on the beach?
Regular campground this time. So we took the four-wheel drives, but we were only there for 4 days. We didn't have to. We could just stroll to the beach from where we were. So
pre-kids I was so anti that sort of holiday. Sorry, I'm just playing with my headphones here. But once you realise that you kind of become a bit selfless and realise that the holiday's more about the kids, and I think once you reach that point, you actually have a really good time.
All of a sudden the amenities and the playground and all that.
Exactly. Does it have a hot shower? Is it close to a some kind of convenience store where you can stock up on stuff that they break or forget?
Yeah. No, it just made sense. It went really, really well. So, and mate, I wanted to tell you, I went on my first trail run.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is massive news for anybody listening. New listeners, you won't understand the magnitude of this. You need to go back and listen.
I know this isn't a running podcast, but I think we've had chats about, where we've been going with our running. And you have, been doing lots of running on trails, and I thought I'd give it a go. It's a lot harder.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's harder.
It's interesting hearing someone else who has actually done a clean. I used to run on the road, and then there was a big gap between when I used to run on the road a couple of years to when I started running again. And when I started running again, I only ran on the trail. So I didn't really have, put it this way, I didn't have 1 week where I'd been running for 6 months on the road and then I just went on the trail. So I don't have that comparison anymore.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, the elevation was more than I'm used to. The GPS stuffed up because of the location as well. So there's always these little issues I hadn't thought of. And then I was running down this hill, and I think I kicked this rock the size of my fist into my right ankle. Didn't fall over. I kind of hurt, and then I kept running, and by the time I got back to the car, there was like blood coming through my sock, and and I just went, okay, this is next level from what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's I've nearly fallen over once, like proper fall over, and it wouldn't have been pretty, but I just managed to keep my legs under me.
So I'm back to running on the bike trail near the creek down the back here. Yeah.
Well, you didn't get inspired, or didn't it fill you with adventure?
Well, look, I've got a question for you. That if you didn't see it this way, or didn't see this as an issue, and maybe some of our listeners think this ain't an issue either, but I was struggling with, where is it appropriate or where is it not appropriate to trail run? And the reason I asked that is I initially saw myself running, 5K out to Green Falls, which is a beautiful rainforest trail up the back here that, but it's fairly popular. And then I saw myself having to negotiate other walkers, and I started thinking, I don't want to be that guy who's running full pelt through that sort of
I
environment.
don't think you'd be that guy running that fast.
I mean, running slowly. Puffing.
Vomiting on the trail. Like, oh, who's this guy? Another drunk. Okay. So, sorry. You
have
go.
I made that clear that I was wondering whether,
right.
because I don't see a lot of people doing that when I'm out walking a bushwalk. So I thought perhaps I didn't feel comfortable.
It's a good question. I think there's two ways of answering it. One is, look, you're allowed to trail run wherever you want, right?
Yeah. Because
it's a trail and you move at whatever pace you're comfortable. I think most people would agree on that.
Yeah,
but I really like that extra level of respect for, fellow hikers, fellow runners, walkers, whatever. So I like that. And what I'd say about that is when I've hiked on trails that are quite narrow, where basically you're only really, say you can't walk side by side, then I think that you'd have to pick your time of day or that sort of thing. And there's probably you've probably got a valid point there, and it's really going to mess with your flow anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to be irritated. The track I run on most regularly is it's wider than a car.
Yeah.
And if there's people walking, and there's been people on their horses, and I've run past them, obviously faster than a horse at full pelt, just overtaking these two horses. And, hey, how you going? Oh, nice day for it. Flicked a carrot to the horses and off I go.
That might have been awkward too.
No, I was going the other way. That's the only way I passed them. And because the trail is so wide, it's absolutely fine. And then the other trail I do a lot, I've mentioned it a bunch of times, is the dungeon, and it's all four-wheel drive tracks, so it's and you won't even see a person there. You're more likely to run into a car. Yeah. And, obviously you just get off the track or whatever. But
yeah, that's why I put a lot of thought into it initially, because I ended up coming up with a bike, like a mountain biking trail. There was horse shit everywhere, because I think it's the same sort of thing where people ride their horses around. And so, and it was probably wide enough for a vehicle most of the time.
Perfect. Are you sure it was horse shit?
I think so.
Okay.
I tested it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tastes like horse shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I was just getting to the fact that initially I realised, hang on, no, I can't just go to, some of the border tracks or whatever to do it, because I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with that, I reckon.
Yeah, no, it's a fair call. So as an example, did you just mention the border track? Is that what you're referring to?
And I know they do organised runs there.
But I would run, and I have run on the border track. I've done a 5K trail run there by myself, and I only passed. It was kind of late afternoon, and I consider that an acceptable place to run, because the people are so spread out, you're hardly going to run into them. You might run into them at that very first bit before you turn off to that waterfall circuit. But really, I only passed two people on the way out, and it was the same two people I passed on the way back. And I tried to kind of make a bit of noise coming up to them, just so they didn't get spooked or step to the left or something, straight into me, because I'm going at quite a clip, and if you run into someone, man, you knock them for six. But then I was thinking of the other place we hiked at Lamington, just because it's a reference we both know. Did we hike? We hiked the long way down to that waterfall where we sat and ate dinner and did that time lapse. Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So remember how wide that trail was in parts?
Yeah.
Yeah, in parts it was, you and I could well, probably 3 people could walk side by side and have a conversation while they're walking.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite acceptable to scoot past someone. And it all depends on who it is you're coming up behind as well. Like if it's a 60-year-old lady and her grandkid or something, maybe you just slow up to a fast walk and say hi and move around them safely and then take off again. But I think you'd have to be pretty negative sort of dude to get upset about someone.
Yeah. I haven't encountered a lot of trail runners while I'm out just, bushwalking.
No, nor have I.
And that's why I just wondered if trail runners do have that little thought of where they like to go and where they shouldn't probably run, or I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of trail runners like to do the longer distance stuff, so they get irritated if they had to
slow down
all the time, and they'd get irritated if it was a super tight course.
Yeah.
Whereas I loved running that border trail because it was so twisty and there's so many routes across the trail and rocks, and you had to duck here and go around. I thought it was like one of the best trail runs I've ever done.
Yeah, it would be great. That's where I see the value in some of those trails. But then
imagine running out to Echo Point and sitting down there for getting your breath back, turning around and going home.
Yeah, it's just the encountering people where I started to second guess that choice of location. But
it's a pretty good question.
But as I say, mate, it was my first one, and it was just a gravel, sort of a rocky track, and it was tough because there was a lot of elevation. It was a grind, but it was good. I might go out there again, I reckon. Yeah,
well, you've got to get yourself sorted for coming out with me.
Mate, I haven't committed to anything.
You said yes once. So.
Did I?
Yeah, you did say yes.
That's my memory again. What do you mean?
I actually put that. Actually finished that. It's funny you mention it because I didn't even have it written down. I finished my trail run video and put it on YouTube. All I got to do is just it's not live yet. As in I haven't. It's sitting up there, but I've got it hidden. All I got to do is just make it live. But you've just reminded me. So I'm going to make a commitment to get that out for the launch of this episode. So if you're listening to this now, and I've done my homework, you should be able to go on the show notes and find it'll be embedded in there, or jump onto our Facebook. Probably be on there, YouTube, whatever. But that's the one I've talked about a couple of times. That was my birthday run, so that was quite some months ago now. Oh yeah. But I filmed it all just I just thought someone might get some interest out of it. But what it does show you is when you hit that part called the dungeon, it does get pretty freaky pretty quickly.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. And I only filmed it on a GoPro, but it came up all right.
Awesome.
I ducked out to that cabin again.
Oh yeah, yep.
As you would know, had a nice time out there wandering around. I did a solo overnighter while I was out there. So not only did I drive, 5 hours into the middle of nowhere, but then I hiked another few hours beyond that cabin and stayed out the night. I did a fair bit of filming while I was out there.
Oh, you've got something new. Are you going to talk about that in the gear, or?
I do. Yeah, I will mention it.
So how was that?
Well, I haven't used that.
We're talking
Craig's
about
alluded
the hammock,
to.
aren't we?
Oh, yeah. I used a hammock. Sorry, man. No.
Sorry, man. I was just going to say
I thought you were talking about the new inflatable mattress.
Oh, that's coming. Yeah, no, I was talking about the hammock because I think that was a big deal for you getting out there to try it, wasn't it?
That was my...
First time?
Second.
Oh, okay.
Second time. Because I took it out for 2 nights at Lamington as well.
I haven't seen it, so I can't wait. We'll have to go out sometime.
Yeah.
Because it's quite different to mine, isn't it?
It is very different. And I'm just kind of getting it just kind of getting it wired, if you know what I mean.
Sierra
Madre. A 9-ox flat lay hammock. So I'm just getting it wired at the moment. It's pretty easy to put up and pull down. It's just in the tensioning. I'm so used to having a different style where you just crank that ridge line. But this is quite the opposite. You actually have to loosen it off to get some slack in the material. So I think I've almost got it right. I won't jump to the new mattress. I'll leave that until after this.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
But it kind of plays into that whole setup that I've got now.
Did you have a good time out there anyway that one night, man? I don't think you even told me how it went.
Very, very, very cool. I moved at a very slow pace, deliberately. I left in the late afternoon, so sort of about 3 p.m. Quite deliberately. I wasn't running late.
That's a bit late though, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I'd planned that I wanted to basically... It's not like I wanted to hike the whole day to get to a destination, because I was planning on heading home the next day. So not just heading back to the cabin, but then actually packing up and driving 5 hours home. So I didn't want to have a whole day hike ahead of me the following day. So my aim was to do a couple of solid hours, visit a little spot that I already know on that property, and then go to a completely new ridge that none of us have ever been to, and just check it out. And it was extremely peaceful and absolutely gorgeous weather.
Oh, yeah,
Saw some echidnas out there.
Oh, right.
I got some really good footage of this cute little guy. I chilled out next to the river for a bit, and then climbed this ridge, set myself up, got a little fire going. And it's funny because, and we actually talk about that on the podcast with the guest tonight, watching his YouTube videos, which is how I first discovered him. He kind of inspired me to get out there and, take some slightly different food. So I didn't actually go out there with a freeze-dried meal. I didn't go out there with anything that you and I normally take.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually took I took some sausages out there.
Yeah.
In a Ziploc bag that I had, raw sausages that I had not cooked the night before.
Right.
I took, what else did I take? I took a sweet potato, a couple of normal potatoes. I took a half of a pretty big capsicum. I took a carrot out there. I think that's about all I can remember taking. Then I took some aluminium foil in my pack. And yeah, basically I lit a little fire and threw all of this stuff on. By then it was pitch black because I left so late. And I really just sat around this fire, pulling the food out of the aluminium foil, and just literally eating it with my fingers. Cool. Sitting there looking at the stars in front of this fire, and it was it was real simple life stuff, real special though.
Yeah, that's a bit different. So you
real different.
Yeah.
I mean, for those of you who don't know or understand, where we normally hike in Australia is public land, so national parks, and you're not allowed to light fires in national parks. You can have a stove by all means, but not actually an open fire. So we always abide by those rules because they're there for a reason. But I was on private property, and it was just a real pleasure to be able to take food out there, cook it, and sit there and eat it.
I think I'm definitely going to spend a bit more time sort of preparing different food when we go away from now on, hey?
Yeah, it's something that's been... I mean, didn't we talk about it in our last... was Was it the last episode? I'm just looking back on the notes here. Sure, it was the last episode. Yeah, it was the last episode. I was talking about that recipe I found for that nut bread, and the then we talked about bannock bread and pemmican as well. In episode, was that episode 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely got me thinking about what you can do, logistically, and what's sort of going to last out there, and how are you going to prepare it.
Yeah. I could imagine how much of a difference it makes than just the usual, dehydrated meals.
Yeah, it's definitely something special.
Next level. Yeah.
Did I tell you about? I've actually filmed this as well. I need to knock it up. It's just a 2-minute video or something.
Yeah, cool.
Where I took a really small kind of camping fry pan, which I put on top of my usual stove, and I cooked. Well, first of all, I threw a whole bunch of cashews in the pan with some coconut oil and salt.
Right.
And I roasted them up, and then I put them aside. And then I had a big slab of speck. Do you know what speck is? It's like kind of like bacon before you cut it into slices.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's just a big chunk of meat.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I cut that up into big, thick slices, and I fried that off in coconut oil as well. And then I had an avocado. Those cool cases that are actually the shape of the fruit or vegetable?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I had an avocado-shaped hard case, basically. So I had this avocado totally safe in my pack, and I cut it, took seed out, and then I cut really thick slices, almost quarters, and I put that in really hot coconut oil, and actually kind of caramelized the sides of the avocado. And I just ate that all together, and it was, it would have been a really interesting and delicious feed if I was at home.
Yeah, right.
But it's almost like such a juxtaposition when you're out there to have this, well, at least it is for us, to have this high quality food in a more natural form, that it kind of blows your mind a bit.
Yeah, I bet it's worth that little bit extra
smells
weight.
Better, yeah, it tastes better. Yeah.
That little bit extra, like perhaps cooking gear and stuff, but it'd be worth it, eh?
Yeah, we put so much emphasis on the journey and the destination when we hike.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that's not misplaced focus. That's great.
Yeah.
But we don't really spend much time preparing anything that's of huge enjoyment. Apart from breakfast, I guess.
Yeah, things like that. I just look at how probably the first 5 years I wanted to just cut the weight out of every single thing that we were taking with us, at the expense of whatever luxury came, whatever enjoyment would go along with that. So I think a perfect example is bedding, and how we would have 3/4 mattresses because that was seen to be a little bit lighter and easier to put together and stuff.
100%.
No, I'm not doing that anymore.
I don't know. I've toyed with this a lot over, say, the last 2 years or so, from a lot over the last year as well, particularly when I did switch from a 3/4 mat back to a full length. And I thought, am I just getting old? And what is making me uncomfortable? And I thought, you know what? I think it's just this a whole bunch of stuff mixed in together, that when you're outdoors and you're just getting into hiking, you think, oh yeah, I had a crap sleep, because all sleeping's crap in the outdoors.
That's what it's supposed to be like.
That's what it's meant to be like, and it never gets any better than this. So all good, because you saved 200 grams, so all good. But what happens is, once you discover a sleeping system that isn't crap, all of a sudden your whole perspective changes, and you think, well, hang on a second, what if I invested a bit of time in researching this and trying new things? One of those things was me moving to a different brand of hammock, and a significant one for us was moving to the Zembivy sleeping system. And the reason I call it a sleeping system is because it's not just a sleeping bag. It's more like a quilt that zips around your legs, but it also has a pocket to put this quite an amazing, would you agree, Craig, pillow in the top.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a very good pillow. And then it actually ties to or clips around your inflatable mattress, so you don't get that spinning kind of problem in the night that you do when you're in a sleeping bag. So it contradicts everything you think you know.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of turned me around to thinking, okay, everything doesn't have to be. You actually can get a good sleep out there, and guess what? If you get a good sleep, you kick ass the next day.
Totally. Yeah.
You're not sitting around there grumpy at breakfast time, and you're not tired the next afternoon. I don't know. I've just starting to think that we had it a little bit wrong at the start, thinking that it had to be rough and ready, and it had to be uncomfortable, or you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down, brother. And
yeah, but cooking, I think, is where I'm going to start to move towards just a little bit more effort in preparation.
Yep.
To take out some substantial meals that, will weigh a bit more, but I think it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I totally think it's worth it. And even if it's just that first night, like there's been times where I've taken out, actually, was that a hike with you? I took out a steak. Is that with you at
I think
our
so.
secret spot? I think it was. So basically I took a frozen steak in my pack.
Yeah.
And by the time we got done and dusted and set up everything,
right.
it was thawed perfectly to room temperature. And so I just cooked up this steak, and much to the disappointment of Craig, he had to smell this steak cooking. But things like that,
wiped it from my memory, mate.
That's why you can't remember.
I've repressed that. That was horrible.
After the therapy, I'm not allowed to talk about it anymore. So that was, and it's only the first night, but who cares? Like if you can live big on that first night, then have your dehydrated stuff the next night.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. It's all worth investigating, and if there's anything that I've learned from hiking and all the outdoor stuff we do, canoeing, whatever, is you absolutely never stop learning. Like there's never ever the perfect pack or the perfect tent or the perfect anything, but if you're continually looking and exploring those boundaries, you're eventually going to get something pretty damn close that works for you.
Yeah, nice.
The ultimate goal.
Yeah, cool. What else been going on?
Mate, I have I only have one piece of news this week.
Okay, tell us the news.
So I'm just going straight to good news. How do you like them apples, mate?
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, because you get a bit...
You're always bringing me down, mate.
I know. And what I was planning to do was, if I had other articles this week, I was going to finish on the high like I did last episode, and just everyone would be so happy, but I don't even have to go to the lows this time, mate.
Right.
How's this for a title of an article? Conservation group to buy world's largest privately owned giant sequoia forest for $15 million.
Whoa.
That's pretty good, eh?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so that's a sequoia tree.
Massive tree.
Yeah,
what,
mate.
Snowfield, is it? Like it's...
Well, I mean, at some times during the year, yeah,
it's
for sure.
Sometimes, probably in the cold part of the year, yeah.
When it's snowing, there's definitely snow there.
Right.
That I can guarantee.
That looks amazing.
That's it without snow.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I've not been to this exact place, but I have been to the US, and I've hiked around a sequoia forest, like a national park thing. These things are huge, man. Like one of them's I've been to has this massive. It got burnt out through the middle, and you can drive a car through it.
Oh man!
But it's still perfectly living because it's just got so many roots in the ground.
Really?
Oh, these things are amazing. There's a
Huge.
photo of me trying to hug one, and you'd need about And it was only a small one, but you would have needed another 4 of me to join hands to get around it.
Yeah, like that one on that screen there.
Yeah, close to that. Yeah,
that's huge.
Absolutely beautiful trees. And what blows your mind about these is, I'll give you some stats here. So the organisation was called Save the Redwoods League. Yeah, and they signed a deal to purchase the world's largest privately owned giant sequoia forest in California's southern Sierra Nevada. Massive trees that soar 250 foot. That is 76 meters, dude.
Yeah, yep.
Think about how far 100 meters is, and 3/4 of that going straight up.
Yep.
They span, they can span up to 80 foot around, which is 24 meters around the trunks, and live for more than 2,000 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
So this particular 530 acres, which is 214 hectare property, is only 10 miles from the actual Sequoia National Park, where they are already protected. And it's got another 483 huge trees that are all larger than 6 feet in diameter, which is so cool. Absolutely.
So is it saying that they've kind of saved them from logging, or was it...
Well, at some point, the danger is that even though they're privately owned and these people have... I'm scrolling through photos here, and the area is immaculate, so they haven't gone and destroyed the area and just left the trees. Like this is prime, beautiful, beautiful land, untouched land, with these gorgeous untouched sequoias. So the point I was going to make was, while it's, the person, whoever owns it now, has been a fantastic custodian and kept them all healthy and done nothing wrong, the danger is they move on. So something happens to them. They get old and, move interstate, and they have to sell this land, and they sell it to any old person, and then it's the next person that does the wrong thing, or obviously they don't think it's the wrong thing, but you know what I mean? That's the danger, is someone buys it and goes, oh, great, all of this area, we could put a massive resort here.
Sure.
Or I just want to level the whole lot because I just want the views. I'm going to level all these trees and make a log cabin out of it. There's just that. Oh, that's good. That danger. So that this is really going to secure that.
Good news, mate. That is good news.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome. And I will put a link to this article as always.
We don't have forests like that in Australia, eh?
We don't have. Well,
in Tasmania, they've got
type of trees for sure. But if you go into, I was doing a bit of research because I took my nephew on his first ever hike. First ever kind of. He's done some school hikes, but I took him on his first ever proper hike. I took him into Lamington National Park.
Yeah.
And we actually did the Albert Creek circuit, which you and I never actually got to do when we were there.
Okay.
So we did that, and it was really cool. And we stayed at Echo Point the first night, and we stayed at Bethonga Bell, our old favourite place, Bethonga Bell, the second night.
How were the leeches at Echo Point?
0, man.
0?
Absolutely 0. I think it's because it was after that,
all right,
the drought and the fire ban and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because the bushfires, so it was so dry. Might be a different story right now. But anyway, when we were wandering around, because he's, kind of new to it all, we'd stop and read some of those signs. And they were saying that some of those big, what are they down there? Are they beech trees? No, they're not beech trees. I can't remember what they are. Someone listening to this podcast is going to be screaming at the at the radio or whatever.
I think beech trees rings a bell.
They're going to be going, you idiot, they're this. Anyway, regardless of what they are, we were reading these signs and these information stuff at the ranger's hut as well, and saying that they're in the vicinity of sort of, 300 to 450 years old.
Yeah.
So that's crazy old.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't equate to 2,000 years, but they're still standing, so I don't know how much longer they've got. Also, they're in a different environment. Like, you look how dry these guys are. They're not having to deal with that. Like a lot of the rainforest trees end up kind of rotting out eventually because they're covered in moss.
Yeah.
But these are just good, strong, dry timber. So you'd think they would last longer. Yeah,
they're in some sort of open areas there.
Open forest.
Which is kind of like our gum trees, but they're not like that size. Eh? That's incredible.
No, and I mean, to be honest, mate, like these photos are obviously from that property, and that's a big shot there of that person looking at it. But I could easily show you some pictures of the same type of trees, the sequoias, that are mind-blowing.
Yeah, sure.
As round as this house.
Right.
You just, absolutely. They've got cool names too. Like, I'm sure one's called, and again, people are going to be yelling at the computer going, that's goddamn wrong, Tom. You don't know what you're talking about. But I think one's called, because that's how all our listeners speak.
Yeah, right.
Whoops, just lost some listeners.
Yeah.
No, there's one called Old General or something. Like, they have pretty cool. They give them names, like particular ones that are absolute rock stars. They kind of give them a name.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
I'm just Googling now because I don't want to completely make a fool of myself. Oh no, I can't find anything straight off the General Sherman. Here he is. Yes, I kind of got something half right.
General Sherman.
That's great.
That's the name of the tree.
Yeah. General Sherman is a giant. This.
Oh, he's got his own page here.
This dude's world famous. I'm telling you, my dad's got a photo in front of this.
Oh, right.
General Sherman is a giant sequoia tree located in the giant forest of Sequoia National Park. By volume, it is the largest known living single-stem tree on Earth.
Gee whiz.
Let me see if there's any more stats on height or anything like that.
Yeah, it's all under the...
Oh, is it here? It's here. 83 metres, 83.8, almost 84 metres high, 275 foot. Diameter, 25 foot. Now, just in case you didn't hear me correctly, that's not circumference. That is diameter from one side to the other. 7.7. I know, right?
That's so big.
Look, there's a dude. It's an absolute beast.
That's crazy.
Put it this way, I remember when I was walking through, and I can't actually remember which Sequoia Park it was. When I walked through, there was a branch coming off the side of one of these sequoias.
Yeah.
And I looked up at it and thought, that branch is the diameter of a massive tree.
Yeah, right.
Sticking out the side.
So you reckon these are all over the States, or there's just a certain part of California?
I'd be completely making it up. I think that
keen to go. I want to go and see that.
They are widespread, but there seems to be this area where they're very, very, very prolific.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you got to see them. Like, I think that I went there before I was right into hiking. If I went back there now, I could sit and look at these things all day.
Yeah.
A different appreciation for them.
Cool.
Yeah, cool stuff. So yeah, happy story for you.
Yeah, right. I've only got a tiny bit of local news.
Oh, wow.
Did you? It's just one of these ones that we always kind of bring up, and then we go, geez, lucky that wasn't us. You know what I mean?
Lucky it wasn't us. Obviously, yeah, somebody's done something
silly. Cabbage Tree Creek, which is just out the back here.
Okay.
Guy crawls for 2 days to safety. Did you hear about it? 6 weeks ago, I think it was, or 4 weeks ago.
I'm sorry for laughing. Well, I don't have any context.
Okay, I'll give you some.
No, that's all right. That alone just says to me, well, why didn't he just walk? I don't understand.
No, he broke his leg, mate, big time.
Okay.
Smashed his leg. He fell 6 meters off a waterfall.
Whoa.
And it took him 2 days to be found. Pretty scary, just up the back here. He is a well-known local bushwalking guide from one of the major bushwalking clubs around here.
Wow.
And but it was really sad to read that he hadn't told anyone where he was going.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's why he had to sort of crawl his way out. He broke his leg and his wrist, and
that's complacency right there.
A little bit, because you think you're good.
It has to be. Well, I'm a guide, man. I know this area like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm not putting.
But that's exactly right. Yeah. He said he'd been there many times, so I guess you would be complacent. But he reckons that I'd climbed the waterfall many times before. This time it was so dry that the lime on the rock, instead of sticking, it slipped and gave way. So he'd normally just, climb up there, but it just slipped.
He's lucky it was just a leg.
He slid 20 feet, and then he cartwheeled and slammed into the rock and landed in the creek at the bottom. And then, he had to scramble out of there.
Wow. I didn't hear about this at all.
You didn't? I did hear about it, and I went, I have to look that up.
I'm glad he got out safe.
Yeah, he's a volunteer, and he sounds like he's a good guy.
Oh, no, I'm sure he's anyone who takes any people in the outdoors is good in my books.
Yeah.
I actually had a little slip on the hike that I did, the solo hike, and there's actually video of it. So I walked up this, how would you say? I wouldn't call it a waterfall. It's just cascading rock shelves, and it goes for ages. Really big elevation. And I set up the camera, and I climbed up all of it with my backpack. Then I dropped my pack up the top and thought I'll just scoot down. The joys of, filming, self-filming. You got to go back and get the camera. So I just went back, dropped the pack and just started, reasonably quickly making my way down. As I stepped onto this kind of rock face, it had a bit of gravel on it, and one foot gave way. I kind of started to slip, and I put one hand down, and that made me spin over and onto the other hand, and then I kind of caught myself and stopped the spiraling. But that just reminded me that I did get a bit of a shock there, because I thought, wow, if I had have fallen, a similar thing might have happened, in that I would have started to build up a bit of momentum and then slide and slam and all sorts of stuff. But the one thing I did differently, and I'm not having a go at this guy, but I got the Topo Maps app. I basically opened that and I took a screenshot of it, and then I drew, how you can draw lines and stuff on it? Yeah, I drew these lines and put dots and stuff, and I had the lines different coloured, and then I sent that photo to the guy who owns the property, and I said, right, the green line indicates exactly which way I'm going to hike this afternoon, and that dot represents where I'm going to sleep the night on that ridge, and then the other colour line represents the exact direction where I'm going to head back to the cabin, because I did a bit of a loop. And he obviously owns the land, and he looked at it and went, yeah, great, perfect, got it. I know exactly where you're going. And I said, I will not deviate off that.
Mm-hmm.
I will not deviate from that for anything. So if you don't hear from me by midday tomorrow, you basically just follow that loop, get some help out there, follow that loop, and I'll be somewhere there.
Yeah, well, that's your lifeline. So, you know, you've got to do something like that. Let people know.
Yeah,
for sure. That's the big lesson came out of this one, and the you know, obviously the guy's saying to everyone that, you know, the biggest fault was that he hadn't told anyone where he was going.
Oh, that's pretty cool that he's come out and said that too. So good on him for kind of spreading the word on that.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Cool, man. Well,
thanks for bringing it down, mate. Thank you.
I thought you might say that.
Ruined it. I don't have any. I don't really have anything for gear talk this week, to be brutally honest. But I will touch very lightly on what you alluded to earlier, or what I thought you were alluding to, which you weren't.
Yeah.
So Zembivvy sent us 2 mattresses. Now we've already got the sleeping bags and stuff, but when they first released these and we first got involved, you would use a third-party inflatable mattress. So, for example, I had an X-Bed. Oh, you had an X-Bed too, didn't you? Yeah, we both had X-Beds. My X-Bed was a bit too big, so it didn't really work perfectly for the system. But I now have 2. I just remembered I forgot to bring it for you, mate.
Oh, I thought you were going to pull it out right now so we can all just...
Absolute goose.
Be in awe. But anyway...
yeah, caught me off guard. Anyway, stay tuned for that, because the good thing about that is now we can actually go out and film a proper review on that, because we've got the Zembivvy mattress and the whole sleep system, so you'll see it exactly how it's meant to be.
Yeah,
and I think that's pretty important to do the review like that. I'm looking forward to that one.
Cool.
Good excuse to go to sleep.
Totally.
Oh, do you know what it's time for?
Go.
Tom's Magical Mystery Media Mashup.
Okay.
That's what. Get that into you, fella.
What's going on?
All right. You know Yeti, the not the large animal.
Cooler boxes.
Fictitious animal. Yeah, Yeti coolers. They have a series of... They do a lot of cool film stuff. Those guys are right onto the content stuff.
All right.
I stumbled across this short film about a lady called Leanne Faley, and she's a mountain pilot in Alaska. And so there's a short film about her, which I'll put in the show notes, of course. She's also an artist, does amazing paintings and drawings of the mountains. But it's just a really good... This film just captures that remoteness and how remote her life has become because she's this mountain pilot. And there's this really cool scene where she's got her daughter in the back of the plane and just chatting away, and it's just like you and I would take the kids down the road for, I don't know, get some groceries or whatever, or pick them up from school, but she's in a plane taking off and flying over the craziest, most remote Alaskan wilderness. Wow. And flying for hours just to get to other sort of towns and stuff. She obviously moves around. She works for a place, they move around, like, I don't know, hikers or mountain bikers or hunters or scientists or anybody who needs to get remote access to these areas. And yeah, it's become her life now. She's got a really cool Instagram page that I've been following just lately. And the film is just a beautiful film, excellent cinematography, and I would recommend spending a short amount of your day checking it out.
Right, I've got to say, I always love coming here, getting these little bits from you. This is what I'm going to watch now.
Oh, that's cool, man. I know you're going to love this one.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
really good.
And that's why next time we'll be sitting here, and I won't have any new media because I've just watched last month's.
You just watched last month's.
Media.
So you'll be able to tell me what you think.
Tom. I could tell you what I think, I guess.
Yeah, it's I don't care what you think anyway. So
that's kind of what we've got to say, actually, is that I finished a book.
Oh, newsflash.
I finished a book.
This is good.
It's good.
What's even better about this is it's the same book that I finished.
Yeah, you were saying that we would talk about it once I finished, and it's my year without matches.
Yeah, not yours. The author's year. Claire Dunn is her name.
Yes.
Yeah, I read it, and I'm sure I alluded to it in the last podcast that I didn't want to do the any kind of review on it until you'd caught up.
You gave
I didn't mean it to sound like you catching up. I meant
takes a while.
Till you had the time to invest in reading. Quite different.
Yes.
What did you think?
Oh, mate, it was fantastic. It was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's different, right?
Yeah, I did find it, like you said, quite an emotional journey that. And there was aspects of relationships in there I wasn't expecting when you just read the title. So, yeah, I thought it was a very special book. It was a very nice birthday present. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, no, my pleasure. It's a good one. You know, that's the sort of book that's going to sit on your shelf and you'll either read it again or your kids will read that one day. And, yeah, it's a cool book. Like my kids have been eyeing it off. And asking me what it's all about, and you know, without going into too much detail, the author Claire signs up for this year on this remote property where was it one day a month or 2 days a month or something, where they're allowed to leave the actual area. It kind of like so it's not 100%. You don't just walk out into the wild and get dropped off somewhere. It's not quite like that, but I have to say, the more I read, the more I thought, hey, there's no discounting how remote this was.
Yeah, that's exactly
it's still significant.
What I thought is that initially I was expecting this full remote experience from her, but there are some aspects where, you know, she's able to have visitors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yet it's not discounting the experience.
No way, because
I'm fully impressed with what I think she got up to and achieved.
She blew my mind. Yeah.
So I've told heaps of people about this book.
Oh, have you? That's cool. Yeah. No, she definitely. There's other people on the. There's other people. I think, was it 7 that, or somewhere around that number, somewhere around 5.
5, I think, at the beginning.
And they all signed up together. She only knew one other person. No, she also knew some girl there as well. Jeez, we're really ruining the story that we like so much. Anyway, the point is, there's other people there, but they had this really cool communication system, which is basically, there was like a main trail, and if you wanted to drop in on someone, you couldn't just wander up to their shelter. You had to stop at the basically at the trailhead and kind of signal, you know, so give a little cooee or call out or something. And if there's no response, that means that they just want to be left alone. So I thought that was pretty cool. So she spent a lot of time where she didn't let anyone come near her shelter, and she didn't interact with humans for lengths at a time. So
yeah, no, she took it really seriously, and
yeah, she did. And
yeah.
as the title implies, her number one goal was to not use matches or any kind of flint or anything to light a fire for 12 months. And what she did by doing that was set a goal that, you know, she had to grow as a person to get there, because, you know, I don't know, you see that people trying to make friction fires, and it's a heck of a lot of work.
No,
man.
I've never done it.
I've never done it, but I've watched. We used to muck around as kids. We didn't get anywhere doing it, but I've seen professionals do it. By professional, I mean people that do that stuff all the time, and they still struggle.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what they're doing, and I think I got no hope. Really.
No, she inspired me to watch some YouTube videos on how to do it, actually.
Yeah, I'd love to. And that was one of the cool things that they had in that, as part of that experience. They would have different people come and teach them different skills, like tanning hides or
pottery and stuff.
Pottery. So they'd actually make a whole bunch of pottery, and then she'd use that pottery for the entire rest of the year, actually as bowls and stuff that she would eat out of. She built a shelter from scratch from all local materials.
It's awesome. So you guys should read this book. That's what we're saying.
You most definitely should read it. If you're not convinced, well, we have a scoop for you. I'm sure we mentioned this as well on an earlier podcast, but I have absolutely confirmed that Claire Dunn will be a guest on the podcast in the very near future.
Sweet.
We've got a date locked in. Craig and I will be working towards that, and I'm really looking forward to just picking her brain about so many things and almost getting the inside scoop on some of the things that I mentioned in the book. And I think, and Craig and I have discussed this off air, but I think, you know, even now what we said about the book then, and even listening to Claire talk, it's really not going to take away from you still reading the book.
Yeah.
I don't think any amount of conversation is going to take you on the journey that book does. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not really, we're not going to spoil it for you by having a guest on like that before you've had a chance to read her book. Hopefully just inspires you to get the book.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, man. I know, it's good. It's tops. And I mean, we were going back and forwards for a while there trying to sort out a date, and I was getting a bit worried. I know people are busy and she's away all the time, but I think we've got it, mate.
Awesome.
All right. Hey, do you know who Jared Leto is? It's from one of your favourite bands, I think.
Oh. Jared Leto.
Leto. I didn't know who he was at all.
Jared. Doesn't ring a bell.
30 Seconds to Mars. He plays in that band.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm secretly proud to say I don't know a single song.
Not familiar.
of theirs. I don't know an album. I don't know a song. I didn't know who he was. But I have heard the band name before.
Yeah, sure.
He's also, which I found out later because I started doing a bit of digging as I do, and he's actually quite an accomplished actor. He was, he did play the Joker in a film, like not obviously. I think it probably predates Heath Ledger's Joker. But which is heavily critiqued. Let me just say.
Right.
Yeah, Jared does not get great reviews. Definitely not the sort of reviews that old mate Heath Ledger got, or how do you say his name? Jacqueline Phoenix, something like that.
Right. Different.
Anyway, I'm off topic here.
Tell us.
For some reason, I don't know how, and I don't really care, he was involved in directing a 5-part series called The Great Wide Open. All available on YouTube. 5 basically short films. Now, Jared must have, well, he obviously does have a passion for climbing. He must have a lot of experience. It must be one of the things he does, because he goes climbing in 4 out of the 5 episodes. He goes climbing with different guys in different areas. He climbs with Alex Honnold, which we talked a fair bit about. Yeah. Really cool episode with Alex. He climbs with Tommy Caldwell, which we've talked about him. He climbs with Alex Honnold. And there's a really cool episode as well about this wolf biologist in Yellowstone National Park, which is something quite different. It would have been nice to see all 5 episodes on a different topic altogether, but hey, that's just me being picky, because I really enjoyed the wolf biologist one. But yeah, it's very, very, very good cinematography. He's actually a really cool host. He's just casual. He gets in and, you know, he's just cool. Like, he seems like a pretty normal bloke. And I think what was really good for me was watching the series, not knowing who he was, not knowing that he was famous. I just thought he was some guy that I just thought he was some guy that was a host to this series, and I thought, he's a pretty cool guy. He can climb. He's pretty funny. He gets out and has a good time with these guys. And then after I watched about 4 of them, I thought, why are all these people commenting like they know who this Jared guy is on YouTube? And then as soon as I Googled him, I went, oh, wow, geez, I live a sheltered life. Yeah. So that's another one to check out. Great Wide Open. Very, very, very good.
Oh, cool.
There's this thing called A Stairway to Heaven in Austria, Craig.
Yeah.
It's these names are going to be great, because I love pronouncing names from crazy countries like Austria. It's in a place called Donnerkogel, which I'm sure is not how you say it.
Perfect.
Thanks very much. It's in Austria's Salzkammergut resort area. That's completely wrong. But how am I meant to pronounce this stuff for our listeners? Salzkammergut. That's one word. So the best I can do is put links to it. I apologize. It's a 43-meter long sky ladder, and it stretches over an abyss which is 700 meters deep. There's a YouTube video of it.
Wow.
It's kind of goofy looking guy. I don't know what his story is, but I'm just quickly playing a tiny bit to Craig here. So here's him gearing up. Now wait for it. So they're kind of climbing up. And remember when we interviewed Richard, he had a name for those things, which is when you you wear a safety harness and you have a rope and a carabiner on your left and your right. And as you move over to the points with the bolts in the rocks, you clip one carabiner over, so you're hooked, and then you take off the back one and then you hook that over. He had a word for it, and I can't remember what it is, but that's what the system is. So you're not climbing with ropes, you're climbing with a safety harness and a mechanism to stop you if you slip. But it gets better.
Jeez.
So they're not even on the thing yet, man. Watch when it gets to this. Where is it? Get ready for it. Da-da! It's how could I describe this? A steel rope ladder that has an angle of...
Yeah, I've seen this on
40 degrees or something.
I've seen this on Temple of Doom.
Yeah, because the crystal that you've got to get is up the top there. So, yeah, what, 40 degrees, something like that. And absolutely nothing in between the ground. And look at it. Now look when he pans down.
Yeah. Why do you try and freak me out with this, man?
I don't know. I watched this video thinking, I could do that because you got all the safety stuff. I could do that. And then as the video went on and on, I started to go, no, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. I think I'd close to pass out or something.
That might go some way towards...
Look at this. They're the views that are... Look at this view.
Oh, no. No. This is not helping. I thought this might help, but that would not help with my fear of heights, mate.
Oh, look.
No.
Oh, you can see straight through. It's okay, Craig. There's no floorboards in the way. You just look through the ladder. Oh, look at that drone shot. It's okay. They're just walking up, man. No drama. So when you get to the top of that, you're not actually at some flat lookout or something. Then you got to climb up the rock.
No.
But you're attached on the cable.
Look,
so.
mate, I'll just say, you don't have to do anything.
Look at this. Look at this. Still not.
No.
One word, sickening. Sickening. Oh,
thanks,
that's
mate.
crazy.
Thanks for that one.
That's all right.
I'm glad you're showing me now. I don't have to watch it.
No, you do. You got to watch the whole thing on the big screen. I got a curveball for you now. I don't even know how to start to explain this. I probably won't explain it too much. I'll just put the link on. Make your own assessment.
Righto.
I don't know who this guy is. Again, I stumble across these people. I don't know anything about him. His name's George Thompson. He seems to have a YouTube channel that really focuses on philosophy and that sort of really kind of digging deep into thinking about the meaning of stuff. Okay, stay with me, guys. I'm not going too hippy-dippy here. It's a video he's done called The Philosophy of Identity. Now, how does it all tie in with what we do? He basically goes into the woods to find space and peace to kind of ponder these answers and really kind of talk them through. And it's a good video, man. He talks about kind of the human purpose and why we're attracted to the wilderness and the benefits from it and everything. And at the end of it, I thought, you know what, that's definitely not what our listeners are going to expect, but what the heck, it's kind of loosely related to being outdoors and stuff. So it's going in, and it's our podcast, so you can't stop us. Anyway, no bad luck.
No, we've always had a jab at this about that, you know, the need to connect with nature. Otherwise, you're just sort of missing something in your life.
Oh yeah, we're not out there hiking just for fitness and selfies. I mean, yeah, sure, the selfies are a very, very big part of why I hike. And I'd say like the majority of the reason I hike is selfies. But if you take that away, there's at least 2% of the reason I'm out there is to be in the wilderness.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Can you imagine for a second other people around the world, other cultures, other languages perhaps do not understand my sarcasm? Can you understand how bad that is for us?
Yeah, let's hope they do.
You gotta hope they do.
Let's hope they do.
All right. There's two things I want to touch on in our shout outs. One is we talk about him a lot. Jodes is a cool guy who really supports us and gives us a lot of good feedback. Now, this is a really interesting thing, and I really wanted to mention this for everyone else who listen. If you listen to episode 17, which was Solo Hiking with Andy, part 1, you may have had the same thought as Jodes. because in hindsight, when I've gone back and thought about it, that podcast, we split it roughly in the middle to split it into 2 episodes, right? But it really didn't come into its own until the second half, or in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I thought that too.
Also, you have a hard time grasping what Andy's all about in that first one if you don't have the second one for context. And it was really interesting from somebody who, doesn't know anything about Andy. He's over the other side of the world in the UK, and he actually wrote in on the Podbean app and said a comment and said, great episode as always. And I'm just ad-libbing here. But he basically said, not quite sure about this Andy guy. Like, he almost sounds too Aussie.
Yeah.
Almost like a bit over the top. And he wasn't having a go. He just said, I'm just not sure, right?
Okay.
And I thought, absolutely fair call. I was quick to say, well, I think that you probably, we don't have a heavy Australian accent, in my opinion, when you compare us to someone or other people we know. So you may kind of think that listening to us is Australian, but it's kind of not as Australian as you can get.
That's for sure.
So I think that's one thing.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he listened to the second half and he actually came back and commented again and said, you know what? I get it now. He's an absolute legend. I get it. And I thought, wow, that's, first of all, good on you, mate, for taking the time to invest in the second one, and good on you for coming back and kind of making that. I'm not going to call it a correction because I don't think you were wrong the first time. What I'm saying is you've come back and kind of addressed a comment that you made. But what it did, this is a great thing about when you guys give us feedback, right? It makes me think about things, or makes both of us think about things from a different perspective. So we don't know how we're going sometimes unless you tell us. And I'd like to encourage anyone who didn't get through all of episode 18, so part 1, or thought that they didn't want to hear more of the same in episode 19, to do what Jodes did and go ahead and listen to that. And that second part really does start to unfold into some crazy, really cool adventure stuff. I just thought I'd mention that.
There's no doubt he talks more about some of the crazy stuff he gets up to in the second half. That's why I was worried about splitting that one up. But we had been talking.
It's a tough call.
For
it's
so
always
long.
A tough call, man.
It was such a long sort of podcast. It made sense to cut it up. But I think you're right. Yeah, that's really interesting. I know,
and I learned something. We all, we're always learning, and we're always trying to improve this. So it is interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting that someone just out of the blue just pointed that out. So, really grateful for that. And Craig and I have been toying with the idea. We were talking about it before this podcast of potentially doing an entire podcast without a guest, just us two, just answering your questions, any questions about anything, about us, what we do, the hiking, whatever, our opinion on anything. Now, what we wanted to do first was kind of gauge the feedback on that. So, get expressions of interest. If that's something you think you'd be interested in us doing, is just sitting here and answering a whole bunch of your questions and kind of going into detail where we can. We'd really enjoy it. We'd love to do it. It's just up to you guys whether that's something you want to hear. So, jump on whatever medium you like and give us some feedback on that if that's of interest to you. At the same time, we're kind of scoping out some potential new topics for the coming months and the coming year. So if you can think of any topics that you might want us to hit, give us a bit of a heads up on that as well, because we can start putting some thought into it. Essentially, we're just cruising along, doing what we think you might want to like to listen to. But yeah, obviously we might not always get it right. So give us some feedback. We like it. Now, Craig, what you've been waiting for. Finally, we close the loop.
Right.
Later on tonight,
yeah,
when we talk to our guest Tom, we talk about wearing kilts and the dangers of ticks. Right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, okay. So do you remember Joel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Joel, for those of you who didn't listen, this must have been about 3 episodes ago, he wrote in, he had to put it politely as possible, he had a tick on his tackle. Okay?
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back in the whole story, but this was a brand new girlfriend he took out camping, and he had a tick on his junk, and he had to get her to reef it off because he couldn't see down there. So go back and listen to the full story. It's pretty cool. So then in another episode I mentioned him because he wrote in and said he listened to our rendition of it, and he said, yeah, not bad, pretty good, you got most of it right. He said, I'm going on a camping trip with her this weekend, and I'm going to be driving on the highway for a significant amount of time, a couple of hours. I'm going to throw your podcast on and say I've got something to listen to, and then I'm going to say nothing, right? And then we got on air on the last podcast. I said I emailed him, he hasn't emailed back. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it went.
Yeah.
Well, he sent me an email and said, oh, sorry, mate, I only just caught up on that podcast. I didn't know you were waiting to hear the result. Of course I'm waiting to hear the result. What do you think I'm doing here? I only partly do this for my own satisfaction and fun. So anyway, this is actually his email, and I'll read pretty much most of it out because it's just, I can't sum it up any better. So here's the thing. It went to plan. I'm proud at how composed I remained in the lead up to your delivery. And I didn't give anything away by laughing while driving up the highway. I don't think she actually heard when you prefaced the story that it was about a tick. She did turn to me when you said it was someone named Joel from Brisbane. I thought the game was up, but no. She laughs and says, that's a funny coincidence.
All right.
My face was a stone. No idea how I held it together, but I did. Yeah, very funny, I reply, trying to keep from exploding. She slowly caught on after a while and started laughing her ass off. She only whacked me a couple of times, so it all went well. So that's the first. Man, I was reading his email just in stitches. So funny. Then he goes on to add, he returned to the scene of the crime for his birthday with a big crew of mates. After a few drinks, he decided it was prime time to bust out your rendition over the Bluetooth speaker for the campground to hear.
Oh, no.
Everyone had no idea I had emailed in, so it went down a treat. I've never seen my brother laugh/choke so hard. I thought that was absolute gold. And I just picture these guys just...
that does bring that round full circle, eh?
It does, right? Yeah, I know, because I was so close to getting the full story last time, but didn't hear back in time. So, yeah, totally awesome.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Yeah, thanks, Joel. Thanks for closing that off for us. That made my day and probably a lot of other people's. Craig, it is time now to jump over to the interview with Tom Langhorne.
Great.
It's hard to describe what Tom does, but I have spoken about him on earlier episodes. He's a guy who, well, he's right into adventure and outdoors, and I mean, he's going to go into detail in the interview we did with him. But at some point in time, he's decided that he wants to kind of explore what it was like to get around the Highlands of Scotland in what he would consider traditional dress of 17th century, isn't it? Sort of around that.
Yep.
Yeah. So he basically gets around hiking in a kilt and a little wool hat and like this white kind of flowing shirt. And I discovered him on YouTube by accident. He popped up in my feed, and I've actually spoken about him in previous episodes, and I enjoyed his videos so much I just got straight in touch with him and just felt like we really needed to have a chat with this guy and just find out more about what he's about, what he does, and how all of that came about. So it's a real different one. It's a super interesting one. Craig, you have anything to add? Like, did you enjoy the chat?
Yeah, mate. He seems quite eccentric, but I'm sure that I'm sure that it comes from a genuine part of him and who he is. And
absolutely, it's all real. Yeah,
it's so real. And yeah, it's a special find when you put me onto his videos, mate.
Yeah, I remember that. And I mean, I straight out say to him, I'm sure I say to him in the interview, you basically sound like just a big kid, like doing the stuff we all wish we could run around doing, and he just freely admits to that. So, I think I'll leave it there, and I'll let you guys get into it. But we really enjoyed this. He's an absolutely lovely bloke. I dare say this is not the last time we talk to Tom in Scotland, because it was a ton of fun. So, yeah, get your ears around this one, guys. Have a great time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hello.
Hey. How you doing?
Hey. Something's working.
It worked. How good is technology?
It's weird, although it's disappeared on my screen, so I don't know where it's gone. But as long as it's working, I suppose it doesn't matter.
Well, you sound good.
Okay, sweet.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I literally just got off the hill.
Oh, good on you.
Sitting in a car park in the Highlands.
Awesome. The voice you hear now is the other Tom on the other side of the planet.
Okay.
And Craig.
How's it going, Tom?
Good, thanks,
good name,
mate.
Good, strong name.
It is a strong name, strong heritage.
And
Craig, how's it going?
Craig here, yeah, good to talk to you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
So, what have you been up to?
No worries.
What have you been up to this morning? Because it's just about 1 o'clock, 1:30 there.
It's 1:20 in the afternoon. Here right now. So I climbed a mountain called Ben Withis.
Right.
I've just been up in the Highlands all week. I'm doing this mountain leader assessment. It's basically like a qualification that you can take people up in the mountains, but I've got an assessment for it in a couple of weeks' time. But basically you need to get you make a logbook for like evidence of all the mountains that you climb. So this week I've just been doing almost like a mountain a day.
It's trying to clock up some peaks.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So what's this? What's the assessment going to entail? Like, do you have to do anything physically at that point, or is it you're going to sit an exam?
You do. Like they send out like a very small written exam, but it's a 5-day assessment. So like one day it's navigating during the day, another day it's like steep ground, so rope work and stuff like that, and then there's a like emergency first aid day, and then there's an expedition and like night navigation, and over the 5 days you're just constantly being judged. So I'm kind of shit myself for it.
Yeah, that sounds a bit stressful for sure.
Yeah.
And at the end of that you'll be qualified to take other people, so guide people, is that correct?
Yeah, you'll be qualified to take up to 6 people like out into the wild, basically.
Oh, good. Well, that'll cover the two of us when we get there.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Have you been doing some of that, taking people out already? Like, have you been able to have some work around that before, or what?
Yeah. So with it this year, I've just been I've been trying to go freelance, just teaching bushcraft survival kind of privately, and then also working for a company. But most of the time, the insurance covers you if you have to be close to a road in case there was an emergency.
All right.
So you can't really. You can still be kind of wild and be like a near 4x4 track, but you know, if you want to do something out and about, then you need this qualification. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No.
Hey, mate. I was. Have you listened to the podcast where I first mentioned you? Just out of curiosity.
No, I haven't. Oh, sorry.
Right. Yes, it was about 3 episodes ago, maybe 2, off the top of my head. And in the just in the intro to every podcast, I usually talk about interesting clips I've seen on YouTube or interesting books I've read or anything like that. Just anything remotely related to the outdoors. And yeah, I jumped on the podcast one episode and I said to Craig, man, you got to check this guy out. Like this guy's crazy. He's running around in Scotland in a kilt. It's the best. I don't know why. It's the best thing ever. And his reaction was that well, I get this reaction a lot from Craig, was that there's something wrong with me. And anyway, I talked him into checking it out, and he got back to me. He said, no, this, I don't know why it's good, but it's really, really good. So that's kind of where, and I got to thank YouTube for chucking that up on my, in my feed. Yeah. Obviously, I watch a lot of, I don't know, solo hiking stuff, survival stuff, bushcraft stuff, and yours finally popped up.
What was the first of my videos to pop up?
I wrote that down because I wanted to tell you that. It was the overnight survival as a 17th century Highlander.
Okay, yeah.
So one
that's the most popular one. So.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was where you're in front of that kind of rock face and you sleep there.
That was my first overnight one in the kilt. And that's the most popular one. So.
It was really good.
Fine.
You know what I liked about it, Tom, was it was quiet, and you didn't kind of flood everyone's senses with this with too much music or too much talking or too much of anything. I just felt like I was as close as you could get to kind of hanging out with you there. And
cool.
You know,
I think that's I was still filming with a GoPro back then,
right?
And although I've moved on to a better camera now, but people say like although the GoPro isn't exactly that great quality, it does give you that kind of sense of like you're there with someone.
Yeah. I think when we film, we tend to mix it up between the two. I've got an A7S, and then we've both got the new GoPro Hero 7s, and between the two of those you can kind of get you can still capture your cinematic stuff, but then you can get that raw kind of stuff when you're actually on the move or something like that. But yeah, no, I just loved it anyway. It was I really liked it, and I started clicking through a lot of the other ones as well.
Cool. Thanks, man.
So but something I did notice, mate, was the progression of your filmmaking. I'll call it that, because I think that what you're entering into now, when I say now, the latter part of your channel is definitely moving into what I would consider filmmaking. Like it's storytelling, it's artistic, and it's nice to watch. So it's different. The further I went back, I had no idea that this guy that I was watching, started out as, I don't want this to be a derogatory term, but almost like a travel vlog type of channel. Would I be correct?
No, totally.
Yeah, so
it was just it was when the GoPro 2 first came out, and I was just like messing around with that basically.
Yep.
It was total amateur, just kind of point and shoot, but just having fun with it.
Yeah.
And it sort of escalated into this.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, there's some really interesting stuff there, and yeah, some great footage, and you've captured all of that. But I really think that this little niche that you've found is just quite incredible, and it's captivating in a way that I haven't seen on YouTube for quite some time.
Cool.
Yeah, mate, that's how we picked it up was, seeing some of these videos of you running around recently in the kilts and getting up into the Highlands. Where's your personal inspiration for the Highlander series come from?
The Highlander series, well, it sort of came from stories that my sister told me. So, I grew up in the Central Belt, but we spent most of our school holidays up in the Highlands. My parents are both very outdoorsy, so we grew up hiking and fishing and just being in the Highlands and all that stuff. And then from a young age, I was interested in the whole bushcraft survival kind of stuff. And then my sister was really interested in the history and the culture, and she was really interested in the myths and legends and the mythical creatures and stuff like that. And but as we have you followed much of Dave Canterbury's work? Yeah, survivalist American guy.
Pretty big fan of Dave.
I really love his stuff. And when I was sort of at uni, I was getting really into his stuff, and I liked all his old school things. And he's really into wool blankets and just how multifunctional wool blankets are. And I think my sister she was just talking about the plaid and was telling stories of how people would, they were multifunctional, how people wore them. And obviously, I'd seen people wear them, and I was aware of Jacobite history and stuff like that. I was just like, what? The plaid is just a big wool blanket. That's fucking awesome.
Actually, I had
some uses for that.
Yeah, I hadn't quite seen it the way you were showing us how you wear it and stuff. It's incredible how that's a piece of clothing.
It's incredibly versatile.
Yeah, I know. So that was the initial way I stumbled upon it. Funnily enough.
Fair enough.
And then, through through family, friends, and my old job, I worked up in the Highlands. Just sort of meeting other knowledgeable people, and I was just like, oh, there's such a pool of knowledge of how people in the Highlands survived. And my sister's fluent in Gaelic, and she's well contacted in that sort of world. And there's a sort of, a few kind of elders, you could say, or there's a few people trying to keep that knowledge alive.
Yep.
And I just saw there's a whole thing here that no one's tapped into of how people survived, or at least there are people that are doing it in some ways, but no one had dressed up in the bushcraft survival side. And I was working up in the Highlands, and it was a perfect place. It was really close to where I filmed that first video that you saw.
Yep.
And so I was just like, I'd been dreaming up the series a couple of years in advance, but I'd been traveling, so I was away from Scotland. So when I came back, I bought myself a plaid and just went and started it, basically.
Yeah, there's something about it, mate. You've stumbled on some gold there.
That's
now your sister,
cool.
She reads some of the poetry on one of your videos, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does the singing in that video as well.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's
and it's funny because the Gaelic translation, it's like a love song, and in one of the verses, it's a woman remembering about being wrapped up in her lover's plaid because they're ran away from the village and they're bumping uglies out in the forest in their plaid. So yeah, I went perfectly with it.
No, it's very good. I liked it. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that because it just kind of started about halfway through that video from memory. She just started singing or talking, and I thought, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And I thought it was quite fitting. It was different, and give her our regards. She does a nice job, and beautiful voice too.
Oh yeah, well, I'm hoping to get her on. I want to do a video about the mythology of trees.
Oh,
so there's lots of folklore and stuff attached to the trees that goes way back to the Celts, but it's that was another great thing about this kind of time period in culture is that although, you know, it wasn't that long ago in her history, but because that area of the Highlands was relatively unchanged, although like Christianity had been there for, you know, whenever the Romans brought it a couple thousand years ago, it still held some very old Celtic mythology and kind of sort of elements of Celtic paganism that goes way, like, who knows how far back that goes.
Yep.
So that's quite cool how it sort of survived.
Yeah,
and I think culture up to not that long ago. It's
equally important that someone like yourself is bringing some of that information forwards as well.
Well, I thought at least doing it in the bushcraft survival way was just like a new way to present it. There is people out there like keeping this knowledge alive, but it's still very much, you know, in books or kind of just still within a quite small Gaelic community.
Yeah, and I think
you know, I just thought, like, if you just dress it up, something different.
Yeah, it's hard to palate sometimes. Like, it's hard to ingest information that's just either in a textbook or even in some kind of a History Channel sort of format where it's just a somewhat bland display of information. But I think the way you've approached it makes it engaging, and before you realize it, you're learning about history, not just watching some crazy Scotsman run around in a kilt. It's kind of like win-win, really.
Yeah, you gotta trick people into learning.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hey, your mission statement of your channel, I just want to read it out, but it's quite lengthy, but I will read it out because I want to talk about this. To help reconnect people with their natural and cultural heritage through the practice of wilderness living skills in order to better understand ourselves and how we can be more responsible participants on this planet. How long ago did this mission statement come about?
In those exact words, I think I wrote them down at the beginning of the year, because basically this year was when the YouTube channel was gaining some momentum and I was getting some opportunities. I thought, right, I need to write, because the mission statement had been, I guess, it had been very vague for maybe 5-6 years of like an idea of kind of what I wanted to do. But it was incredibly vague. But actually trying to put it into a mission statement so that, you know, you have something to aim for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, something tangible.
Yeah, something tangible, something that you can,
well, you can gauge your success
work towards every day.
You?
Yeah, exactly. So that's only really in the last few months did that happen.
Yep. And just for our listeners, I don't think we've actually mentioned this, but I know you mentioned you just got back off the mountain, but you're literally still sitting in your car, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. That's why I just wound up the window because some walkers have come past and they're talking.
So tell them, don't they know who you're talking to?
Yeah, no, I've been living this in the car for 10 days, so it's just like I've got like wet clothes hanging over the chairs.
They're probably a bit reluctant to get too close to you.
Interesting smell.
It looks like you're talking to yourself now too.
Yeah, exactly. He's on some dodgy call, making some kind of deal. In one of your videos, I can't remember what it was called, sorry, but I'll put all of these references we make. I always do a show notes page on our website for the listeners, and it's basically just a place where they can, because they might be listening to this while they're running or driving or whatever, but they'll go back to that show notes page, and I'll embed all the videos we talk about. So even though I can't remember the title of this one, it was basically you talking about your motivation for being in the wilderness.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Remember that?
Yeah,
one?
we are wildness. I think I called it or something.
That is exactly what you called it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know what you've done.
I remember what the thumbnail looks like. I can't really remember what the title was. But I think,
No, you nailed it, mate. I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
You speak of a disconnect with between nature and the modern world. It's something that I know Craig and I kind of, well, I guess our main reason for ever getting in the outdoors was to kind of try and reconnect. And I don't want to try and sound chauvinistic here, but realizing what it is to be a man, but at the same time, if you're a woman in the outdoors, then it's realizing what it is to be a woman.
To be human in general.
To be human in general, exactly right. So that was kind of what originally got us out there. But you really touch on some, I mean, that whole video, I think everyone should just listen to that. It's kind of like a mantra. Craig, have you had a chance to listen to that one?
No, because that's something I was going to ask you about is, you're getting in touch, with your past. And
I reckon it sums up everything. I think almost you'd want to start. Well, no, you got to watch the 17th Highlander thing in a kilt first. But second video, go and have a look at this one.
Well, I think I might confuse people because some people are like, "Oh, it's just a history channel," and I popped up with all that deep stuff, and they're like, "What?" But it's
you know what
But it is the underlying.
That.
I was trying to communicate the underlying kind of motive behind everything.
Well, the funny thing is, the more and more, once we spoke and you agreed to come on as a guest, the more and more research I did across the channel and the more I watched, I thought, wow, this goes so much broader than I anticipated. You're doing things like archery and building your own bows, which, trust me, we'll get to that later. I've got that written down. But then you've got this whole side where you're talking about, this clip we're talking about now. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that it's still, the whole spectrum is of interest to me. And I think that's okay, mate. Like, I think that's okay to sure, some people might have jumped on because of your earlier videos, or maybe they jumped on because of the Highlander series, but it's your channel and you're spreading a good word, so I commend you on that.
No, thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, do you think people are overlooking their connections with the land these days? Do you think that's why you've got so much education in here and trying to help people reconnect with their history and with the land?
Yes, I think in general, I feel like perhaps I might go back to like way back into when ancient, when Christianity first emerged, or, you could go way back into analyzing where that first kind of dualistic split began, between the kind of like the humans and their sort of separation from nature. But I think I guess I'm in that video and in the work, I'm just trying to just describe an absolute like reality that I feel when I'm out in the wild, especially with like minimal equipment and tools, or when you get like a good sort of when you're in the wild in really bad weather and you're really sort of humbled by just like you're actually like you're so small and you're so like pathetic organism compared to like the majesty of nature.
Insignificant.
And I think exactly, and I think that is an important feeling for a modern person to have, because I think we have become so, I feel like we're in a little technical and little civilization bubble that it's just like we feel so untouchable and feel so just like, everyone's sort of obsessed with where technology is going and AI and all that stuff, which is true and is interesting, and we should, technology should progress for the good of everyone. But it's like I think everyone needs to experience like an absolute grounding of like, no, this is actually what human being is, and this is what living is. It's that basic, I need to keep warm to maintain my core body temperature. I need to get some water in. I need to, it's like
The
getting
basics.
that grounding experience, and then through that, I found that you realize that you have come, you didn't come into this world, but you came from it. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. You actually
I'm a big
say,
fan of Alan Watts, so lots
o-
of Alan Watts lectures.
okay, what's tell us about Alan Watts. I'm not actually familiar with that name.
Oh man, you should check him out. He's
I'm
a
gonna write it down.
basic philosopher who became he was around in the 60s. He brought Eastern philosophy to the West, but he does it really well. But he's got that saying, "You didn't come into this world; you came from it."
Okay.
Like a wave from the ocean, and it sounds a bit kind of like vague and mystic, but I think when you experience being in nature like that with absolute like basics, and you kind of experience that kind of the absolute grounding basics of being alive, then you can get that humbling feeling, and you sort of realize that actually, you know, civilization is just this bubble, and it could pop so easily, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost depressing how quickly that could happen. To be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Um,
how like little resilience there
that,
is of left between the average person.
that's exactly right. And also, you talk about being grateful for when you return from nature and
Oh
you're
yeah,
able to turn on a tap and get fresh, clean drinking water, and turn on a light switch and things like that. And I 100% truly agree with that. And there's a couple of other points that you mentioned in the same video. A great statement you made was that we're deprived of stillness. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because Craig and I are currently, I've just finished reading a book that he's actually reading. And it's about a lady who lives in the wilderness for a year and doesn't take matches. She only uses friction fire. It's a fascinating book, but even 6 months into this year-long journey, she has this guilt feeling of when she's not doing something. Like there's this inbuilt thing in our society where you're not allowed to just sit under a tree and watch birds
exactly.
and
Yeah,
smile and breathe fresh air and listen to the stream. Like, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Why aren't you
yeah,
taking photos? Or why aren't you doing this? Or why aren't you sending emails on your phone? Like, it's crazy. So
yeah.
I could relate to that. And another one, on the same sort of thing, is you mentioned being alone with your own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll let you answer this question, but would you say that all of those things are magnified on, and is that the reason that you tend to lean towards solo adventures?
So I think, yeah. So I think being solo is a big part of experiencing those things. Obviously, I think it's great to do it with friends, and I do really enjoy going out with friends and your mates and stuff, but you don't generally experience the stillness if you're with your mates, unless you're with I don't know, a certain type of friend. But it's like the experience of like there's no one else to rely on as well, and it's quite a scary feeling. The first time I was doing solo trips, like you're scared most of the time because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
if I like slip and cut myself really badly or break an ankle, like it's only me to like deal with it, is all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah, that's
and
100%
it
true.
and because we are social animals, like it's like built in us to feel scared when we're alone. Um, but I think that's a kind of window into learning, especially yeah, when you're out in the wild by yourself. For me, it's you can, yeah, just experience the stillness, getting away from the distractions of technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just I'm quite interested in meditation, and having that sort of environment really helps
Well, most
minimize
definitely
distractions.
does. And I
yeah.
don't think meditation has to be that stereotypical meditation that people are kind of picturing from movies or whatever. I think, you know, meditation can be, you know, sitting on the edge of a mountain where you were today, and just kind of letting your mind wander, or just not be full of that noise. So I think people are pretty quick to shut down
ways
the
of
word.
doing it.
Yeah, that's right. They're pretty quick to shut down. Meditation. Well, hang on a second. If you just stop everything and enjoy nature, sometimes you're accidentally meditating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like it's sort of focused attention, and again, Alan Watts said a great thing. It's like it's truly the only pointless thing, because if you put a objective on it, like, oh, I'm meditating so that I'm more productive, or so that I can do this and that, then you're thinking about the future and you're not meditating.
Right, so you've actually lost the purpose of it.
Yeah, you've lost it. It's just this like sitting of just being there.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's just this like effortlessness. And it's like the whole nature's doing it. You just look at a tree, you look at a plant, it's just doing it. It's not thinking about it. It's not worrying about it. It's not worrying about next Tuesday and who said about who and what happened on TV and all that shit. It's just chilling. It's just doing its thing.
Yeah. I think I've only, you know, if I'm honest, I've only been in that state twice in my entire life. I mean, completely in that zone. I grew up training martial arts. I lived in Japan and stuff for a year and a half.
Oh, nice.
And, once we were sitting down at this river and we were all meditating, and I got to that point. And another time, strangely enough, was playing. I had this a djembe. Are you familiar with a djembe? It's a type of
the drum,
steel drum. Yeah, I had a wooden one, a steel one. But this guy, this drum teacher, was telling me that if you just lock yourself away, play the djembe, and he said, eventually the djembe will play you. And I was just kind of...
I can understand it.
I was just fascinated by that thought. And he's like, no, you won't know it until you don't know it. And so I sat there one day, made sure my parents were out. And I just started playing some beats. And I was doing it and doing it and doing it. And then I literally got to a point where I forgot to think for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. And that's a pretty good place to be.
Kind of like a flow state almost as well.
Yeah, very much a flow state. I definitely wasn't, how would you say it? I wasn't consciously trying to play anything in particular.
I find a few nips of good whiskey can do that to me too, Tom.
Yeah, it's good. It's good when Craig has his whiskey. I get more peace and quiet too.
Hey, actually, I think that's a segue, mate. I can't explain in words how cool it is to see you've made that. Is it like a goat horn?
Ram's horn.
Ram's horn.
Yeah, it's a ram horn from my cousin's croft and near the Isle of Skye.
That's hilarious.
It's awesome.
The best comment on that whole video was, and it doesn't taste like sheep.
Yeah, so it just holds like just a tiny bit of whiskey in it, or
yeah, it really doesn't hold a lot. And to be honest, it's still not like, obviously, because whiskey is it's thinner than water, so it's quite hard to make a whiskey-proof flask.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So I've changed around the stoppers. It works for a bit, but if you leave it in your pack for like a couple of days, usually it will leak.
Mate, there's no way that would last in Craig's pack for a couple of days.
Yeah, it doesn't hold that much. I don't even know. Maybe only
Yeah.
I don't know, a couple drams worth, but yeah, not a lot. But
no, you'd have to make a couple, and I saw how much work went into that. So
yeah, I know. I know people are saying, "Oh, why didn't you use like a cow horn or something?" But I was just following the historical account I had.
No, that's exactly right.
Tup's horn, which is a young male sheep, is called a tup. So
okay.
It was a tup's horn of Ushkabehe.
I just love that you call the whiskey the water of life.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, they got something right.
So you just used the Gaelic word for it then, was it? Ushkabehe?
Yeah.
Ushkabehe. Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I did like that. But you see, this is another kind of, in a sense, tangent or another string to your bow. It's strange that, you have this video of you going out solo, but then I like the fact that you're showing us how you're making the gear. And I have seen the other videos of you when you're talking about your the kilt and how all of that came together, and your shoes that you made from an old leather couch.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah. They'd be real stealthy, I reckon. There's something else you mentioned. Oh, hang on. Can I backtrack a bit? You said earlier that we're social beings. Now, Craig, didn't I talk about this to you on the last podcast?
Yeah.
Did I? Did
we're
I mention
social beings?
Yeah, as in, as humans, we like to be social.
Yeah.
Well, I've just been struggling with that lately because, and I'm not challenging you on that comment because I hear it a lot, but would you say that, this is what I've been struggling, the thought I've been struggling with, are we saying we're social beings because we've forgotten how to be alone now and we're not comfortable with ourselves, or we don't know who we are? Would you say that there's any truth in that?
I still think biologically we're ultimately social beings because it's what made us survive.
Yep, fair call.
And it's why people say like the kind of social anxiety, and the reason why we care so much about fitting into the tribe is that if we didn't fit in, then we might get banished, and if we're banished, then you're going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the benefits of being alone, I think there is. So it's kind of maybe you could getting away from, you might say, our primal nature of constantly being part of a tribe. But I think there's many benefits of experiencing solitude.
Yeah, no, that's a fair call. You see, Craig, that's why I get really smart people on, just to shut down my theories. I guess why I say that is because the more I spend time alone in the wilderness, last week I was fortunate enough to spend 3 days out there, 2 nights in a cabin, a remote cabin, and then I hiked from the cabin.
Where in Australia are you guys?
So we're in Brisbane, or near Brisbane.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And this was down on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. And then the third night, I decided to hike out into the mountains and just take my hammock. And I have to say, mate, I have to thank you for that, because I was definitely kind of channeling my Scottish Tom at that point in time. Yeah, I kind of thought, I really feel like doing this. I'm in a good headspace. I think I'm going to enjoy it, which I think is important. I think that's important for anyone getting out solo, is make sure you're in a positive frame of mind before you leave, because you could possibly, it could be detrimental to the enjoyment, that's for sure. But mate, I took some oats out there, and I had every intention of making oat cakes on a rock. So I carried this rock up this damn mountain, and it's hilarious because I took footage of it, and there's a point where I'm cooking these sausages over the fire on sticks, and then the piece of slate that I dragged up from the river just goes ping and it cracks into 3 pieces.
Oh no!
And the other thing was we're experiencing some pretty severe bushfires at the moment over here, so everything's very dry. And I had an extremely small fire, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to risk lighting another fire in the morning. Because at least I felt somewhat safer at night because I could see if embers were moving around. But during the day, you know, you walk away.
Yeah,
and
fair enough. Be careful there.
So I didn't get to make the oat cakes, but I did enjoy that video of yours as well.
Thanks, man.
It was good. Yeah, it really inspired me. I thought, oh man, that's making me hungry. Admittedly, I was going to make a much more sweet version than yours.
Yeah. Well, the garlic ones were pretty nice.
Yeah,
but
I'm
sure the people. I mean, it's like I try and find some historical accounts to like base stuff off, but then it's kind of the rest is like, well, what would you do? It's like, well, if you're in time of year where the berries are out, of course you're going to chuck in some berries.
Of course you're going to chuck in some berries. That's exactly right. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And you think of an ingredient like that is such a great base ingredient because as you just demonstrated, you can move all the way to savoury and you can move all the way to sweet, but you can also do something in between. So it's pretty versatile.
Yeah, oatmeal's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff. You know, I knew this guy once and he would never take oats when he was hiking. I told him every single hike, man, you got to get into eating oats. It's the best. And
you convinced me. And then I don't think I've seen this video that Tom's got. So this was the traditional sort of food, and you make them into cakes on hot rocks, do you?
So I've got a video.
All right.
Yeah, basically making oat cakes, cooking them on a hot slate. People, they also make bannock breads. And making the oat cakes, they cooked it on either like a metal plate called a girdle or a hot, like a specific stone that was called a bannock stone, a hot stone that they would keep next to the fire.
Okay.
So
we were just talking about bannock bread on the last episode, actually.
All right.
Because I do enjoy making that.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
And again, it's such a hearty, well, I guess you could call it a meal, but any kind of accounts I can find about bannock bread is you're starting with the flour as your base ingredient, and then you're basically just foraging whatever else you can from fruits, nuts, anything that's going to give you energy and protein, and then storing it in that bread, and it's more easily transportable and lasts longer. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's good fun, mate. That's something I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, and again, I'm cooking over the fire last week. It was something that it's a bit of a luxury for us here because most of the time Craig and I are in national parks, which means there's zero fires.
Nice.
So we usually end up cooking over the gas stove, and it's either dehydrated food or oats. But there's I think there's something pretty primal and almost instinctive about putting food on a fire and then sitting there.
Yeah, totally. Even just being around the fire. I mean, it's. I was so my job last year. It was an environmental education project. We're teaching people how our ancestors in the Highlands lived, and it was mainly school children, and even like we got a few school groups from more urban areas, and even they found it pretty difficult getting into the kind of country life and the dirt and the midges and the ticks and stuff. But as soon as there's like a fire on, then just everyone sort of comes around it, and they want to like put sticks in it and stare at it and stuff. And maybe these kids have never really had a proper campfire before. It's just like
it's captivating.
It's just attuned to it. Yeah, everyone comes around and stares at it. It's just like
for sure.
It's so primal.
Yeah, it is 100%. There's I'm sure you would have heard of Les Hiddens. He's called Bush Tucker Man.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
he quite old school?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the 80s, I guess his show was on.
Yeah.
But one of his the things he said on one of the episodes was he said, "Oh, I'm going to sit down tonight and watch a bit of Bush TV."
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
only
totally.
one channel, but it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's again the sort of the being alone in the wild, the sense of security you get when you get a fire going. Like, I've been in situations where it's getting dark, and you can get this kind of primal fear, which might could go way back to because fire did scare away predators. If you didn't have a fire and you were by yourself, it was probably pretty likely that a lion or something's going to get you.
That's an
So it's
interesting
just
way of thinking about it. I didn't think about it
Yeah,
like
so
that.
there's a sort of fear like that, and then when you get a fire going, you're just like, it doesn't matter what happened the rest of the day, but as soon as you've got a sustainable fire going, you just get this like relaxation of like, like it's like planting that seed of order in the chaos. It's like you've got something down, and
Most
from that
definitely.
you can get some food, and you're gonna scare away that predator that's been stalking you and stuff like that. It's just like,
Yeah, arguably, I mean, above, next to shelter and water, arguably you've got something extremely valuable there. I mean, if you're talking about scaring off predators, and then you're talking about having the ability to, purify water or sterilize water,
yeah,
heat water,
yeah,
cook food, take raw food and make it edible, and also warm your body. I mean, it's one of the
make
most
tools
amazing. Yeah, that's right as well.
Keep away the midgies.
Keep away the midges.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Did you see my latest video?
Oh, I saw one very recently where you just got swarmed, mate.
Did you? Oh, I was going to say some of your get-ups that you wear probably don't have much protection from things like that.
Yeah, I've experienced it all.
Jeez.
Yeah, the kilt's a funny thing. How traditional do you go with it, mate? Are you wearing some kind of woolen leggings or?
To be honest, I've tried both, and I do like to cover my family jewels now after experiencing the worst.
Yeah, well, there's one of our listeners sent me an email a couple of weeks, probably a couple of months back now, and I won't tell you the whole story, but basically he dropped his on the way to the shower block. He dropped his underwear in the grass, and then couldn't find it. And on the way back with his head torch, he went, "Oh, there they are." He picked them up, and when he got back to the tent, he put them on, and half an hour later, he had a giant tick and attached to his sack, let's say.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I've had that too many times.
I haven't had that. I've had them in a lot of other places, but I'm so grateful I haven't had that.
The area, and I mean, it's funny, the area in Scotland that was filming those initial Highlander series is the worst ticks I've ever experienced in my life.
Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, that far. It's just got way too high deer population. We've got a big problem in Scotland. The deer population is way too high. In that forest, that state, it just had so much deer. So,
but they're
horrendous. But actually, the worst ticks I've ever had was in that forest, but in modern clothing. I just had, my t-shirt was a wee bit small for me.
Yeah.
So it was sort of riding up my back on my backpack.
Oh wow.
So just in an area of my lower back, I got nearly 40 ticks.
Oh what? That's disgusting.
That's really bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, ticks they're not fun. I was complaining that I got 3 on the last trip we did.
We don't get that many. Jeez.
Holy heck.
Did you think they're just, like we call them, a bush tick, or are they some paralysis ticks that you can get up there as well? Or
you only get the one
type.
Yeah, one species of tick. But yeah, they can carry Lyme disease.
Oh wow.
Jesus.
Which it depends. Some people are super paranoid about it, but then like some areas of the Highlands, it's just like you can't avoid being bitten by ticks no matter what you do. Like obviously, like you tuck in your socks and you tuck in your t-shirt, put insect repellent around and all that stuff. But still, it's like, I mean, yeah, I've probably got some on me right now. Just like if I could do, I got one on my leg right now just from walking around.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. So there's just like there's so many of them. It's just like.
Yeah,
you just got to deal with
it. Kind of just takes your mind to thinking back 200 years and what people would have had as defense. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean there is a plant called bog myrtle that people use for insect repellent, and it has been proven to work, but it's not as effective as a modern insect repellent, obviously.
Yeah,
I think people just dealt with it and we just
right. Yeah, it's not. It
wasn't
part
of life.
Yeah, probably wasn't the worst.
I have a theory that they weren't as bad as well.
Right.
I think the deer population things would be much less.
That's an interesting point. I would probably just because we have we've got 5 types of deer in Australia, and I think if you look at the size of our continent and the size of the area you're in, and then you start to take away natural habitat with towns and cities and whatnot, you're really going to start cramming that population into a much smaller area. So
and then the parasites always follow that.
Yeah, they do, especially when it's kind of that crowded. Like the Craig's uncle used to have a cattle farm, and they used to get frustrated because they would dip all the cattle. But then the red, then the red deer would.
Is it making the farmers go mad?
No, I don't think there was any. I don't think there's any problem, like any side effects of that. But they were getting frustrated because the deer would then run through all the properties and just drag the ticks all through anyway. So they couldn't really win. But what type of deer get around in the hills there?
We get 2 native species of deer in Scotland. You get the roe deer and the red deer.
Oh yeah.
And up in the Highlands, it's mainly the red deer. So they're the kind of classic Scottish one that you see.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And the roe deer they're smaller. With small antlers. You do find them up in the Cairngorms, Central Highlands. But it's really as far north as they go. And then, of course, we've got introduced ones for hunting. We've got fallow, and we've got like a Japanese deer and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
When you say introduced for hunting, are they high fenced, or or some fool let them out into the wilderness by mistake?
What do you mean, the deer?
So the fallow, do they just run around?
Yeah, they're just in some estates they're just left to roam around. So there's areas that they're pretty much naturalized. There's even reindeer on the Cairngorm Plateau.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
But they're sort of they're kind of half domesticated. They get fed occasionally and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, most of the deer we've got here were gifts from other countries, and then they just eventually got out, and they've just run across the whole country. And they
I'm sure the red deer came from Scotland, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. But that's really interesting.
Scotland gave us red deer and AC/DC, so that's pretty cool. Probably.
That's true. We can't. I think they paid us back for. Having said that, I do. Red deer is one of my favourite animals. I can't get enough of watching them. They're just majestic, and I've run into quite a few out there and just sat and watched. The fallow are quite pretty as well.
Yeah, it's the rut this time of year, so the whole of the mountains are it's really loud with all the males calling. Yeah,
it's the weirdest sound for anybody around the globe who's never heard it. How would you explain that roar that they do, Tom?
It's like a throaty death metal growl.
It's somewhere between a. Oh. It is like that. It's like it's a wolf howling, but it's just just smashed a couple of those horns of whiskey or something, and it's got a real hoarse throat.
Yeah, super loud. So yeah, the whole mountains this week have been echoing that.
Yeah,
cool. Hey Tom, is it easy to get access to places around Scotland where you like to go, or is it mostly private land?
No, Scotland's got this amazing right to roam law. We're the only country in the UK. It means you can roam anywhere as long as it's not
that's great.
private land. But then private land is like restricted, so that means like someone's garden. So even like a massive estate, it's like percentage land. It's still restricted of how big, like a fenced garden you can have, and then the rest it's all right to roam. And as long as you follow a code, which is basically like don't damage people's fences, don't disturb cattle, all that stuff, then we can you go wherever you want, which is the best law ever, really.
Yeah, it's the best law. Is it one? Are you allowed to stay one night in the one place?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the codes. No more than 2 nights.
No more than 2 nights. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of vague. I think it's to stop people just like settling places.
Oh no, that's fair. Totally fair enough. Yeah. We had a guest on, Thomas from Sweden, a while back, and they've got a very similar rule over there. Yeah. And that's how he gets around. He just wanders through people's properties, and I think they've got a very similar thing where it's 1 or 2 nights maximum, and you got to move on and leave everything how you found it. So I think it's so hard to comprehend because over here there's too much of a sense of ownership and mine, that's mine, and when you think about how ridiculous that is, the land, the planet belongs to all of us. I think that those rules that you guys have over there is a pretty good exercise. I think it's almost a case study for the rest of the world to say, hey, look, you can do this and you can share it. And if you're somebody fortunate to have a lot of land, and then somebody doesn't have any land, they can still experience the wilderness.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously there's still a shared responsibility in it, which people in Scotland obviously don't always do. There's still people that litter and burn places down and shit like that. But,
no doubt. Yeah, it's the same
that's
here.
It's just the small people that ruin it for everyone else. Because I say that there's actually an area in Scotland where you can't. It's around Loch Lomond.
Yep.
So Loch Lomond is like the closest nice nature area to Glasgow, which is the biggest city.
Yep.
And after just a few nice summer days, then the main kind of easy camping areas are completely trashed. So now those you're not allowed to camp without a permit. So that's the only place in Scotland that doesn't have the right to roam law, and it's because people did not respecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ruined it for everyone else.
Yeah, that's always the way. There's there's a few. I've seen a few videos on YouTube of people turning up to their favourite spots in the woods, and it was either UK or Ireland, and it was just trash, and they actually spent the first hour, all of them were just cleaning up everyone else's rubbish before they actually set up their campsite.
It's pretty special system you got there though, man. That's awesome, mate.
Yeah, I admire it.
Yeah, no. Something like you don't you just grow up kind of just it's just the way it is, and then you go to other countries. I mean, I've been to plenty of countries where I still camp and move around. You just have to be way more stealthy.
You have to wear those little leather shoes that you made. Can we? I've been such a good boy and not gone there yet. But can we talk about archery, please? Obviously, I'm a big fan. I'm actually off to the range tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Yeah, my local range has got it's school holidays over here, and they're offering this free 3-hour little course. So for kids, so I'm taking my 10-year-old along, and
oh, cool.
He's already proficient with a bow, but it'll be just nice
what,
for
what
him.
sort of bows are you shooting? Like,
Well, I shoot
fiberglass recurves or
no, I shoot
compounds?
I shoot a compound, but I've been teaching them with a fiberglass recurve. So I think tomorrow will be just fiberglass recurves for them. But yeah, it's really good. So yeah, obviously I got a bit of an interest in it, but I noticed that not only did you build your own longbow in one of the videos, but you actually mentioned that that was your second longbow. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, so I was obsessed with bows and arrows and all primitive weapons when I was a kid. So I made tons of. Sorry?
What kid isn't?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I made tons of your basic survival bows that would last a few months but eventually break.
Yep.
But I made one other. So when I was trying to get serious into it, but I was still a teenager, so like quite short attention span. Then I bought that book, the Boyer's Bible.
Right.
And I built one from ash. It wasn't very good, and it did eventually break. So that U-bow was, I say it's the second one that I was following a sort of guide from that book, but it was my first one that I actually, because now I'm older and I've got more patience than when I did.
Time into it. Yeah.
I put some time and effort, and I was very careful with it. So
yeah,
in that way, it was my first.
No, it was good. I liked it. It looked like it had a pretty decent amount of poundage as well when you were shooting.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I haven't measured it properly, but it's probably around it's between 60 or 70 pounds.
Is that
raw
right?
weight.
That's what my my compound is, 65. I have it wound down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when I saw those arrows go, I thought that's packing some speed for sure. Really cool.
Yeah. No, it turned out well. I'm still a bit because obviously the stave of yew I started with wasn't ideal.
Yep.
So there was a couple of cracks appearing that I've put reinforcements around and stuff, and every time I shoot it, I'm almost a wee bit scared it's gonna break. Oh, that hemp string did eventually break after a few hundred shots, so I need to make another one. But
yeah,
no,
it's
but
good.
Yeah, making a bow from scratch is just one of the most satisfying things when you can just get a bunch of sticks and string and make a really effective weapon. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I see the time that you put into your arrows as well. It's
yeah,
it's admirable. I feel so cheap when I go and buy 12 carbon arrows now. I think it's again, like I was saying before, it's interesting that you can have this YouTube channel and essentially cover so much, such a broad amount of topics, but at the same time they're all kind of interweaved, they're all interrelated.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do, because I do have such a wide interest of things, and I don't want to be shoeboxed, or I'm refuse to have labels or anything stuck on it. I just kind of want to do whatever I want to do, but then underlying it, the more serious video I had, that's kind of the underlying the motive of what keeps me going, what keeps me making videos is that. But then an individual video might be just because I want to do it, or that's fun, or I read this in a history book and it sounded interesting, let's try it out, kind of thing.
But in that way I think it's kind of interesting, but it's almost like the viewer's able to follow you on what you might get up to when you've got some spare time on the weekend. All right, let's build this thing. And I think that's it's good, mate. It's good stuff.
Thanks, man.
Now when you made that thumb release out of a piece of bone that you found on the ground, what I found really interesting about that was a Eastern technique, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one I hadn't really been aware of until a few weeks prior to me making that video.
Well, were you aware of that, the way that you were holding the arrows as well? Is that something new to you? Because I found that quite fascinating.
I've always just, because a lot of the things I self-taught myself as a kid to just like trying it out.
Yep.
So I remember with archery specifically, I was shooting my homemade bows and one bow that my parents bought me, like for years without getting any lessons. So I was naturally shooting the arrows on the right side of the bow.
Yeah, I used to do that.
So the opposite.
Yeah, I had
exactly.
no idea.
That just seemed to be, the most sort of intuitive.
Yep.
And I was getting quite accurate at that. And then I went for like a birthday present for a birthday party. My mum got. We went and did some archery, and the guy taught me to do the other side and shoot that side. And I'm like, oh, I felt a bit ashamed, like, oh, I've been doing it wrong all this time. And I remember going back and having to like relearn to shoot on the left side. And then when I got older and I realized that wait, the Mongols are probably like the best archers of all time. They were shooting on the right side. And, all these Eastern traditions, the Japanese, the Chinese, they all shoot on the right side.
And the other thing is that as a kid, I had no idea about like now if I'm shooting a recurve, I'll have one finger above, two below the arrow. But as a kid, I just used to grab the arrow, pinch it,
me too,
and pull it back with the string. And in hindsight, I'd wonder why sometimes I couldn't hold it back for very long, or it'd slip out of my fingers and stuff. So it's funny what you just instinctively kind of, you see a split second on some cowboy and Indian movie, and then you run out in the backyard and try and replicate
it's like, right, I got it. You try it out. And my really early arrows, I didn't even have nocks on them, so it was just like balanced on them. So you would pinch it and also pinch the string so that the arrow didn't slip off. If that makes sense.
We used to do nocks.
Obviously, they were very weak bows.
Yeah.
But,
we didn't do feathers though.
Like,
You're putting feathers on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, and the early ones, it was just sellotape and a couple feathers like sellotaped on.
We didn't even bother with the feathers. It's pretty bad. Up to 10 meters, you're pretty accurate, but beyond that, she'd fly around a bit.
Yeah, they'd fly all over the place.
Sorry, Craig, we're just bloody leaving you over there, having our own chat, and half the viewers have tuned out in the archery
Keep
chat.
going.
No, look, it comes back to getting your hands dirty, I think, and doing things with your hands. And I think there's a certain, if you want to go back to our earlier conversation about meditation, I'd think, I restore a lot of axes. I'll get really old axe heads and clean them up, and then either get new handles for them or find timber to use. And there's something about that.
This sort of working with your hands is actually like, some people believe that, people don't really know what's going to happen with this generation that's grown up with smartphones and iPads. That it's literally, as soon as they're out the womb, it's just like you've got this screen in front of you, and it's like as soon as the child is causing any problems, and it's just like a screen in front of them, and they're just their whole reality is through swiping and touching a screen. So we don't really know what happens if.
No, you're right. We're in that
people
first
aren't
kind of
exposed to that kind of because it's much more complex, motor skills of carving or as you said, like restoring an axe head or whatever it is, like making something with your hands out of solid material. Requires much more senses and much more motor skill than it does to press a screen.
It also it also requires you to absolutely shut out anything else. Like I can't be filing or carving or anything and be thinking about the horrible day I had at work the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just absolutely impossible.
So it is a sort of a meditation if it's a bringing attention, like full attention to the moment. It's
100%.
Meditation.
And it's very what's the word for it? Tactile. When you're touching timber, and when you're working with timber, and when you're applying that linseed oil at the end and seeing that it is, and seeing that color pop, and then feeling that smoothness, and for the next sort of day even though you've washed your hands, they still smell like linseed oil, and you kind of get some every time you put
so there's much more senses being involved
100%.
than a screen.
And it lingers longer as well, you know. And then when the next time I walk in and see that the axe that I restored, I'm, you know, I get all those feelings come back because it's something that I put some, you know, some sweat into.
Yeah.
No, that sounds true. You guys, both of you, have such talent. Putting me to shame here. No, I really, I can't believe how much you use your hands for, you know, crafting some stuff out in the bush. That's incredible, the bushcraft that you do.
What's tell us about the dirk. Is that a relatively new thing as well? Did I see you're starting to kind of investigate / trial the combat as well?
Yeah. So, as in relatively new, as in
for the channel, I guess.
For the channel, yeah. So I mean, again, it was just stumbling across things that I could explore in the context of bushcraft, wilderness living skills, and things.
Yep.
And and then it was just sort of you stumble across it. So I always knew that the dirk was a famous Scottish knife, but then it was more than that. It was an everyday tool. It was a big part of the warrior honor. All oaths and stuff were sworn upon a dirk.
Right.
So, and then of course, because it was almost every man would have one. Like not everyone could afford a sword, but everyone would be cutting about with a dirk on their belt. Then it became, there would have been lots of martial arts attached to that.
Yep.
And unfortunately, like most of that has sort of been lost. The German guy Heiko, who's been helping me out, and all my videos, it's got martial arts stuff. He's now trying to rekindle the past kind of dirk martial arts that he's piecing together, lots of things. So the Highlander survival course that I taught a couple of weeks ago, we got everyone to carve a training dirk. Just everyone's out in the woods, so cut a branch and carve a training dirk, and then we just went through some basic martial arts with it.
So just for listeners, a dirk, it's kind of like it's a double-edged dagger, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's mostly single-edged. The tip would have been double-edged.
Okay.
And it's about the blade about 30 to 40 centimeters long.
Yep.
Mainly a stabbing weapon evolved from the medieval bollock dagger.
Right.
Aye.
It does. I'm not gonna lie. It does sound to me like you've just tried to research all cool shit that you'd just like to run around and play with. And
pretty much.
It's
make
funny,
a
YouTube channel.
I'm literally still the kid that's just still
just
playing the bows and arrows and stuff. I'm just trying to justify it by saying like, oh no, this is my career now.
Research, mate. I got to research stuff.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
We were watching a clip just before we came on air, and it was the one where you took a hammock into the snow.
Into the snow.
Really?
No, yeah.
And it's just so foreign to us, you know. It's not that we don't get snow here. It's just that it's nowhere near us.
Yeah.
And
I've experienced snow in Tasmania. I do know what snow.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good down there. But I kind of I just wondered what sort of a mindset. You must have some different mindset to kind of go out there knowing that. I mean, all of those, as we were talking before about things that can go wrong, you've kind of magnified those, all those dangerous elements by moving into those conditions.
Well, I guess I've usually still got a mobile phone on me. Just like anything, you look at the risks, you see what you can do to minimize them, and then the rest is part of the challenge, or the part of the reason why you do it. So
Yep.
then you just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's pretty foreign to us. Like that, like I said last week, I was sitting there in a t-shirt at 8 o'clock at night cooking my sausages. Mate,
That's nice.
So I noticed that you have, and as you were saying, you've been to Tasmania before. What were your impressions of Australia? Did you enjoy it out here?
Yeah, I loved it. Did you see my hitchhiking one in Australia?
No.
I
got a video. I hitchhiked from Melbourne up to Sunshine Coast.
Really?
That's the only one yeah, that's one of the ones I haven't seen.
When was that?
I watched the Tasmania one.
2 years ago, 2016.
Jeez.
Now, you also, correct me if I'm wrong, that river you canoed up, was that the Noosa Everglades?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a video on that. So I've got two series, so 4 videos just on the Everglades that
nice.
I did a solo trip. I did the solo trip first, didn't I, Craig? Or did I do it with you guys first?
That's a good question.
I can't remember. I've done it
I think you did
three
solo
times.
first.
I think I might have done the solo first.
I can't remember.
And then
but then we went with
Rob. We
Rob.
took another guy, so 3 of us went into in a canoe and a kayak. And then the last time I went again with my father and took him up through there for 4 days. But that's
nice.
For me as an Australian, and I used to live at Noosa for 10 years, that is still an extremely beautiful, extremely special place. So I can't imagine how it must have been to your eyes.
Yeah, no, I loved Australia. I was blown away by a lot of it, and the hitchhiking was amazing. Obviously, most people would come and warn me and tell me about Ivan Malak and all these other horrible stories and stuff like that. I hitchhiked through that area actually that Ivan Malak was active in.
What, in Wolf Creek or whatever? Oh no, he wasn't Wolf Creek. He was
yeah, he wasn't Wolf Creek, but another
Belangolo State Forest.
Hitchhiking State
guy. Forest. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got a few of them. Yeah, it's hard to keep track.
Yeah, but I was fine, and yeah, I love Tasmania. Unfortunately, the time of year I was there, it was just a bit too much like Scotland. It was just raining and snow and stuff like that.
What time of year was that?
That was the best. The first I went twice. First time September, October, and that's when it was snowing.
Yep.
And then I did go back when it was a wee bit warmer. But I loved Sunshine Coast. I've got one of my best friends he's up at University of Sunshine Coast.
Oh yeah, I know that place. Yeah.
So I went and stayed with him a few times, and he was my friend who was on that
in the
adventure in the Noosa Everglades.
Yeah, on the kayak. Yep.
Aye.
Captain Cam.
So yeah, I love that area. Captain Cam. Aye.
Captain Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's spectacular up there. Really gives you kind of an insight into, especially once you get even an hour up that river, you get an insight into how the Indigenous people might have travelled across that land and how much of an oasis that river would have been to them. Just to have that running water, and there's so many fish and everything. Unfortunately, a few too many sharks as well.
Yeah.
I had a laugh at your video because at one point you said, "Oh yeah, further back in the river there was bull
sharks.
Yeah, and I kind of laughed to myself and thought, that they can actually switch to fresh water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they actually have been found.
They're a bit further up.
Way up that river.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Yes. I figured by the video that you might not have realised that. Yeah, I think they're one of the only, possibly the only shark, but I'm sure there's not many fish like it, that, they can actually adapt, and they spend a bit of time and they just gradually move up through the river system to less and less salt, so they get quite far up in that. And I have swam in there myself. Craig and I swam in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's beautiful that the water, for anyone who doesn't know, it gets so much from all the tea tree
Oh
plants,
yeah,
it gets so many
totally
tannins that it gets brown.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you hop out of that water, it makes your skin and hair feel awesome. Like it's real.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
pretty special up there. So,
Yeah, it's a lovely place.
any more any plans to get back over here, mate?
Not anytime soon. But still, it's it's a big place.
Yeah, there's a lot to do over here. And
So, yeah.
now that you know us,
What about you guys? Are you ever thinking about coming to Scotland?
I've been there once, and as a teenager on a family holiday, and we drove through all of that area. I've been to Loch Lomond that you mentioned earlier. All of that area in a camper van, and stayed a week or something through that area, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was beautiful. Nice. It was, as you say, it was very Tasmania-like. Very rich and green, and lots of mist and fog and mountains, and yeah, really, really beautiful place. I'd love to think that I could get back there and not just be a tourist, but actually get into those mountains and do some proper exploring.
Yeah, well, Tom, I just found out that on my father's side, his grandfather was born in Scotland, actually. So
Nice.
He came to Australia.
Follow some ancestral trails.
Yeah. No, he came to Australia from Scotland, so that was pretty cool to find that out recently. I might have to, get over there and have a little look around.
You might need someone to come with you, Craig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, give us a shout if you ever make it over.
Oh, mate, we'll be hitting you up for sure. Then we'll
some touring.
Yeah, it sounds good, mate. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on for a chat. I really appreciate your time. And I know
no worries. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I know that everyone listening is really going to appreciate all of your insights, and I know they're going to appreciate your videos as well. So all I can say is, it's just nice to see other people on the other side of the world moving around with that much respect for the wilderness and that much respect for history and ancestry and all of that sort of things, and kind of piecing it together in a extremely enjoyable and educational way, mate. You're kicking goals over there, and keep doing it, please, for all of us.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I appreciate it.
No worries, buddy.
Thanks for coming on, mate. Keep up the good work. I really, get inspired watching you out there, and you do have a very unique approach to the wild. But I'm sure that we can all get something from watching you do it. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Couldn't have said it
thanks,
better.
buddy. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. As soon as I saw that first video, I said to Craig, "You got to check this guy out. He looks like a good bloke. He'd be fun. He'd be fun to have a chat to."
Totally.
And I wasn't far off at all. So, thanks again, Tom.
Nice.
Appreciate your time, mate. Go enjoy the rest of your day, and really wish you all the best for getting through that assessment you got coming up, mate. Let us
Thanks,
know how
mate.
it goes. Keep in touch. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll do, man. Let me know if you make it this side of the equator.
Of the ditch. I'll give you plenty of warning. Trust me. All right, mate. Take care of yourself, eh?
Okay, mate. Have a good day.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
See you later. Bye. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about HikeordieTV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by Hikeordie.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.